Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
They got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
This is the next search on February 28, 2020, 7:44 p.m. How, does the FBI find people? The people's misspelled P-E-O-O-P-L-E.
I object.
Did the defendant find out how the FBI finds people in this case? Oh, she found out.
Because he's the guy. What more do you need to see?
Alex stolen as well.
I was just looking for a different soundbite this morning, and couldn't find it, but Alec will work. Welcome, one and all. Welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. All right, I'm now full volume. I'll turn that down just a tiny bit. Welcome back. Welcome back. We're going to be going back to court in New Hampshire here in just a moment. Have to say I owe Britt Bottoms. Buffer. Rianne K gifts the internet to Melanie Schuler. Melanie, did you know you're the recipient of the internet? Let's see. Where's Melanie? Got to tag her so she can't get away. See down here near the bottom, Melanie, wherever you are, you're here. Apparently, Rianne did not want it, and she gave it away. So now you get it. Congratulations, Melanie. Melanie, you're now the internet owner. You were first in chat, or we dub you that. And so now anything IP-related worldwide is going to be your responsibility to fix. So. All right, if there's time before court starts, please play a clip of Court TV trial Jordan Henning to deputy. Tell me if you can take him seriously with his crying, talking, laughing. I feel cruel, but wow. I have to look at that. I don't have that ready. It takes a little bit to put things together. I've got other things on all my systems right now is the problem. I'd have to shuffle it around. Send me a link. Maybe we can do it tomorrow. KLB trying to finish up. Get caught up on everything. That's great. That's wonderful. Anyway, I was going to say I owe Britt Bottoms and Stephanie Carter a big thank you because we got some stuff in the mail. Got some stuff in the mail. A whole bunch of just wonderful food items that I'm supposed to. I think the instructions were to forward to Weather Watch for him to try during the podcast. Yep, that's what it says. Some pickle flavored stuff for him to try during the podcast. So we'll have to see if we can get that down to him. Put that right there. Thank you, Britt Bottoms. Appreciate that, and Stephanie Carter. We're going to be going back to court here in just a moment. Until then, there we go. We're back. Yes. We're not ready yet. We've got a few minutes. We've got like 10 minutes before it starts, so we can hang out amongst each other. Yeah, I also got another screaming pickle in that mix. Some Cheetos Flamin' Hot dill pickles, some big brand sunflower seeds dill pickle flavor. I got some Goldfish spicy dill pickle flavor, some dill pickle flavored jelly beans, which are terrible. I know that already. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think you guys are curing me of my love for everything dill pickle. I think I'm nearly completely cured, and I don't think I'll be able to eat another pickle in my life. Because some of this stuff is just it does not taste good. It tastes like a pickle, meaning vinegary and dilly, but that's about it. It sounds awful. Yeah. Had some sleepers in Simpsons Court a while ago. Like, honest to goodness, they fell asleep. That's cool. It's always fun when that happens. Let's see. I bet he woke them up. Dill pickle sunflower seeds sound like they'd be excellent. It sounds that way. I've been a big fan of ranch, a big fan of barbecue. I think there's even some salt and pepper ones that weren't too bad. Let's see what else. Yeah, those, and then just regular salted, of course, are a big favorite. David Reed says, shout-outs to the UK, Newcastle, and Isle of Wight. Isle of Wight so far? I used to have a bank account, an offshore bank account on the Isle of Wight. I don't know if I still do. I probably should know that. But I think it was through Barclays Bank. Does Barclay have a Isle of Wight location? Can somebody look up and see if Recovery Addict still has a bank account on the Isle of Wight with some money that's just been accruing interest for decades? Let me know. No Drama Llama says, spring break, I can watch or sleep to RA all day without feeling guilty. We're so guilty anyway. So only channel I'm a member of. Thank you very much, No Drama Llama. 15 months. Let's see, Josh says, yes, sent it to the burner. Try to get these at Walmart, says someone. What are these? Dill pickle Pop Daddy pretzels. Made with flavor so bold it's lip-smacking, finger-licking goodness and crunch. These are bold snacks. This sounds like there's a lot of dill. Like they're the big dill when it comes to pretzels. I like a subtle dill. I like... Pickles were meant to be a garnish, although unless they're spicy maple bourbon pickles, and then you can eat them as a main course. But some of these things that have dill flavor just have too much, way too much. Chris says, first time on time. Congratulations, Chris. Welcome. Is that something you should admit on YouTube? Well, it's out there now. It's out there now. I thought it would... I was over in England, and before I left, I thought, hey, it'd be really cool to keep my bank account that I have open over here, because I was there for a while. And apparently they said you can't do that. You'd have to transfer it. It was some rule. I don't know what the rule was, but like you'd have to transfer it to Isle of Wight to be an offshore bank account or something. I'm like, sure, let's do that. So I'm pretty sure I filled out the paperwork, but then I left. So I'm not sure if they ever mailed me something. I'm pretty sure I don't have much money in it. If I do, it's going to be like 20 quid or something, or whatever that equivalent is after 20 years. But special case, since you talked about Zachariah Anderson trial on the Lego stream, I've been a rewatch crew for that trial. Wow, it's so good. That was a very, very interesting, intriguing trial. Someone also walked into Simpsons Court saying, I'm here to turn myself in. Oh, man. Okay, hold tight then. If that's going on, we need to find this. Let's go. My Koberger evidence arrives tomorrow, by the way. A Koberger evidence pack. Let's put this up here. Go full screen there. And here. And then we'll go over here to say SuperSource Box Source 3 is going to be 3 with audio. That's good. And then let's find Simpson real quick. How long ago was the guy who walked in and to say, I'm here to turn myself in? Checking mod chat now. Hang on. What is a Koberger box? It's a K-bar knife with leather U.S. Marine Corps knife sheath. I ordered that. I can get you a link if you want your own. I preferred because I'm going to be probably using it and demonstrating it during the trial as we talk about as the attacks and the injuries specifically are discussed. I thought it would be safer to get to the plastic version of the K-bar instead of the full Rambo blade. Can you please? Moon Juju says, "Hey, Recovery Addict, can you please say or post the name and company for the keyboard/hardware you use for streaming?" That's this device down here. It's the same brand as this one, but this is the bigger version, and I will post it for you. I'll get you a link if that works. Of course, it will be an affiliate link because that's how we roll. You never know. I might be able to collect $1 or $2 off this. Okay, here we go. Get link. All right, I think I spelled everything right. Moon Juju, I just put it in chat there. You can click on it in your chat screen. That is an affiliate link, but that's a link to the ATEM, the Blackmagic Design ATEM Mini Extreme. It's an 8-port with super source. Like the window you see over here, that TV, that whole thing, that's done through that device. So I can see like 16 different things on a TV at once. All that fun stuff. So hope that helps. If you have any questions, hit me up on the burner phone. All right. Let's see where are we going. We're trying to find where in Simpson's Court this happened. Back it up. Okay. Since we have a minute before court starts in New Hampshire. Let's go to 2 really quickly, see what's up here. Well, let's wait for people to show up, shall we? There's Charles. Hey, Charles, welcome. Charles is slamming a Pepsi. Good stuff. Stay awake for court. That's important. $14 minutes ago. Let's see. 14 minutes ago is... Let's start right here.
Indicating defendant has made restitution in the form of a bond to the court for the full amount. Is that
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
my case? All right. Real good. All right. That's the court's full understanding of the agreement.
Ours as well, Your Honor.
All right. Very good. May I have an explanation?
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? State your name.
Frankie Leon Jr. Sir, it is this court's understanding that you're going to be pleading guilty to the charge of larceny 200 to 1,000. That is a misdemeanor punishable by up to 1 year incarceration, a $2,000 fine plus court costs. The fine could be increased at 3 times the value of the property, which is a subject matter of the theft. If that's greater than $2,000, that would become the maximum fine. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
All right. And understanding all of that, you still wish to plead guilty?
Say it out loud.
Yes, sir.
And to that charge, how do you plead?
Say it out loud.
Guilty.
Then you understand that by pleading guilty, you'll not have a trial of any kind.
Yes, sir.
You signed an advice of rights form, is that correct?
Sir.
Any question regarding any of those rights? Okay. Who's raising their hand?
It's right. I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify something.
Well, hold on. Does anybody know what she's going to try to clarify to the court?
Your Honor, I will be addressing bond after this. I will be asking to address bond after this, Your Honor, after the plea. But for purposes of the plea, I don't believe there are any questions pertaining to the plea itself.
Okay.
I'm here, job.
You? It's everybody talking to me. All right. So
I need a
both
job.
sides, despite the hand being raised, you think that I can proceed with the plea?
I do, Your Honor.
I don't see any issues moving forward.
All right. All right. Sir, you understand the maximum penalties, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you signed an advice of rights form, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions regarding any of those rights?
Yes, sir.
All right. Look at paragraph 5. You'll see a copy on the podium. Those are your rights, which are part of a trial. You understand that by pleading guilty, you'll be giving up those rights as well as all the rights on that form.
Yes, sir.
You understand you're giving up your right to appeal of right.
Yes, sir.
Are you on probation or parole?
No, sir.
Has anybody promised you anything other than what's been stated here today on the record to get you to plea?
No, sir.
Has anybody threatened you or coerced you?
No, sir.
You're doing this voluntarily
Yes, sir.
and of your own free will,
Yes, sir.
and because you believe that you're guilty of this offense?
Yes, sir.
October 8th, 2023, at the location of 771 Airport Boulevard, Pittsfield Township, Washtenaw County, State of Michigan. What'd you do in relation to First Merchants Bank that makes you think that you're guilty?
Say it again.
What did you do in relation to First Merchants Bank that makes you think that you're guilty?
Sign my name on the check.
I'm sorry?
Signed the check.
Okay. You're going to have to give me a little bit more detail than that.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, please.
Was there a valid account that you signed the check on?
The person told me it was, but I'm assuming it wasn't.
Did you and you came to find out that there was no active account on that?
Correct.
Did you write another check on that account? Was there more than one check that was written?
It was just them two.
Okay, so there were two.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so. What?
Well, we need a little bit more than that. So
I understand.
then you went.
Yes.
So after the first check, you knew there was not a valid account. Is that right?
No.
You didn't?
No, I didn't. I didn't really know. Didn't know really much about bank accounts at the time. Or none of that.
You can't plead guilty if you don't know.
So let me ask you this. The 2 times that you went in.
I only went in once.
Okay, you only went to the bank 1 time?
I ain't going to the bank at all.
This.
At the Costco, Your Honor.
It's Costco, I mean.
That's the check at Costco. That was not a good number account.
7, yes. So you went to Costco.
Yes, sir.
You wrote a check. You did that twice. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
The second time that you went in and wrote the check at Costco. Pardon?
Would have had to have known the time he's going to take the plea today.
Okay.
Sorry, Your Honor.
The second time that you went in, did you know that the check would not be a valid check?
Yes.
Pardon?
Yes.
Okay. And so in doing that, you attempted to get goods from Costco's that you hadn't paid for because you knew the check was no good. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct? Okay. Was the total amount of the goods that you received, was that in excess of $200?
Yes.
Yes? All right.
What?
Yeah, right. Counsel?
How much was
Have
it?
I complied with the court ruling? Would it be proper to accept this defendant's plea?
People are satisfied.
We are satisfied, Your Honor. Thank you.
Court will accept the defendant's plea. I'm guilty to count 3. Counts 1 and 2 are dismissed. Pre-sentence investigation is ordered at 14A1 probation. Sentencing in this matter will be
April 9th.
April 9th, 2025, 9 a.m. That is before me. As to bond.
As to bond, Your Honor, Mr. Linyoon's wife is in the court today. the family is prepared to move to North Carolina, where he has some jobs lined up. He did give me an address where he would be staying. He is asking for permission to move to that state as early as today. I did talk to him about the distinct possibility of you saying yes and no. I talked to him about him meeting with probation, setting up a PSI. I talked to him about the potential of being able to do the plea via Zoom if the court so allow. He does financially support his entire family. His wife has made it known to me that she cannot do this move without him. He is asking, again, for the court's permission to move to the state of North Carolina. I did talk to Ms. Blondie about this. She said she'd leave it up to the discretion of the court, but she had otherwise no issue with it.
Is that correct, Ms. Lonnie?
Yes, Your Honor, of course.
So now he's coming to my state.
So what I'll do is this. After the defendant has his pre-sentence interview, I will give the defendant permission to move to North Carolina.
Thank you.
In all other aspects, bond will continue.
Thank you.
All right. All right.
Court calls case People versus Craig Manor.
That's all we've got. That's all we've got. We're going to go back to our case here, which has already started. Amber might not be feeling well. She thought she heard something that didn't happen there. She told me to watch that one, but there was nothing to watch. Amber, I'm calling you out. All right, here we go. Back to our other trial.
Thank you.
I didn't hear it, Amber. I didn't hear it. Somebody said I came to turn myself in, but it just wasn't there.
Counsel, over the lunch break, I had the opportunity to do some additional legal research and think about the matter more. In deciding whether the video can come in, as you're all aware, the issue is whether the probative value is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. The court in this matter is guided by the Supreme Court's analysis in State v. Seymour, 140 New Hampshire 736, which is the leading case on this issue. That case involved the introduction of crime scene video and autopsy photos involving two victims in a double homicide case. And in Seymour, the court noted that one of the central issues in that case was whether the defendant had the requisite intent to commit murder in that case. The court finds that the same issue is very much at play in this case. One of the issues is whether the defendant had the requisite intent. This is an attempted murder case, so actually the state has to prove that he acted with purpose to commit the crime of murder. The second issue that I think it goes to is whether the level and amount of force used in this case was reasonable and justified. That's a central issue in this case. The video which the court has looked at, it does show the location of the injuries on the defendant. It shows how they affected, on the victim, the alleged victim. It shows how those injuries affected the alleged victim and the level of incapacitation that they caused. And so I think it's relevant, the video therefore I think it's relevant to both of those issues, whether the defendant had the requisite intent and whether the amount of force was reasonable. The court also agrees with the state that the evidence of the alleged victim's inability to speak or yell is somewhat probative of the question of whether the defendant
video's coming in.
Threat after the first shot was fired. I'll note that the defense appears that they are challenging directly the question whether the state can prove intent in its opening. The defense made that clear. I think the video is also somewhat relevant. It shows the precise location where the alleged victim was laying at the time of this incident. It shows the condition of the driveway as well. And so, while the video is disturbing, the court also finds that it's not excessively graphic. It does show some blood. It shows the alleged victim writhing in pain. But it's not shocking in the context, I think, of the other testimony and other images of the video that the jury can see in this case. So overall, based upon that, the court finds that the risk of unfair prejudice by inflaming the jury's passions or sympathy does not substantially outweigh the probative value. For all of you willing to allow the video in, with the caveat, as we discussed off the record in chambers, that I don't think anything on that video is relevant beyond the point when the alleged victim is loaded onto the litter, or whatever the thing is called, put on. So I would ask that no more of it is shown beyond that.
I can assure the court the video has since been shortened to reflect the point for which the victim is put on the gurney to go into the ambulance. The last thing you see is the officer taking off his gloves.
Very good. I would ask the defense whether they would like the court to give any sort of limited instruction. Okay. Or actually, if you want to make a record, clearly this is your opportunity to make whatever record you'd like to make now.
No, and I do appreciate it. I think I've already enunciated that the objections based on Rule 401, 403, cumulative nature of the material, the anticipated introduction of exhibits that are agreed to that would display all of the rules in question, and the fact that there's medical evidence that could be utilized to discuss and discern whether or not the individual could speak of the injury that was sustained, and that there is no need, there's no necessity for that particular material to be placed before the jury. I also want to put in the record that, of course, there should be some type of instruction to the jury prior to this being viewed. However, I also have to also state the caveat that I don't believe any instruction, although I haven't heard the instruction. I certainly can't propose or imagine an instruction that will somehow quell the prejudicial effect of this type of material. I am aware of the Seymour case, and I have to say that I believe that this is extremely prejudicial. It's much more graphic and flavorful.
The defense attorney is making his argument.
I do take issue with it, Judge. You make a ruling
against the ruling.
I would like to hear what the court proposes with regard to instruction.
All right. You don't have any suggestion on that?
I don't think there can be.
Okay. I think at the very least, I should warn the jury that they're going to be showing video, that it is somewhat graphic. I think at least I should explain to the jury that one of the things the court is going to instruct them is they're going to decide this case based on the evidence and not any sympathy or bias. And the purpose of this video is not to incite any sympathy one way or the other, but it is simply to provide relevant evidence related to the defendant's intent and the level of force that we use in this case. But I welcome your thoughts. I think that's not an appropriate.
Okay, so I'm going to turn.
I don't think that's an appropriate instruction, especially since you're focusing the jury's attention on a particular.
Okay, so what's happened here? The judge has ruled that the video, the body cam video of the police officer who first showed up on the scene to render aid, is coming in. And it's graphic.
I assume will be included in the final instructions, which is that you are not to reach your verdict based on passions, bias, and
the defense doesn't like it.
The standard verbiage in that instruction, and to remind them about that now, and to indicate that they will be seeing essentially graphic images of the injuries and the first responder treatment in this case. I just want to, for the record, indicate the state's position on the cumulative nature. We've referred to photographs taken at the hospital, which is a controlled hospital medical setting. That this imagery here is particularly relevant given its nexus in both time and location to the scene. I think the court has alluded to some of those factors, but I would apply those specifically to the argument about cumulative evidence in this respect. In other respects, Your Honor, I'll defer to the court concerning an instruction.
All right. Well, I think that's a good point you made, and I hear defense counsel your position about not drawing jury's attention to any particular conclusion or analysis. So I think I will limit my instruction to simply remind them when we come to the end of this case that they're inside this case, not based on passion.
Okay, so what the judge is going to do is he's going to tell the jury that they get to watch this, that it's graphic, warn them about that, but Also remind them that they're not supposed to make a decision based on passion or sympathy or something like that.
Be addressed with alternative displays. That is a video. Each moment of that can be isolated as an isolated image. It doesn't have to come in as a video. It comes as still photography. It can come in as single images, and it will speak to all of those things that are concerned with the prosecution.
Well, I understand. I will point out there was a video used in the Seymour case. I think the same argument could have been made in Seymour that could have used still footage from that case as well. But thank you. All right, so I guess my question to the parties is at what point do you think I should give that instruction? Do you want me to give that? Does it make sense to give it before you call a witness, or should I wait until you get to that point in your examination?
My recommendation, Your Honor, is to provide the instructions as we're setting up, and I'll otherwise defer to the court.
Okay. I know you don't agree with the instruction at all, but assuming that you have any objections, you can at that point in the proceeding.
As far as the timing, I don't have a problem. As far as an instruction to the jury.
Understood. I get that. All right. Very good. Then let's bring in the jury.
Your Honor, if I could just return the flash drive to
Please.
Please rise. Jury entrance.
Jury's coming in. They're going to see this.
Please be seated.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming back promptly after lunch. I apologize for what ended up being a much longer break than we'd anticipated. Some legal issues came up that had to be decided, and that's sometimes one of the things that happens in these trials. That's blame the court, if anyone, for the delay because it's the court's fault. So, with that, State call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Spencer Williams Hurley. Williams Hurley is a hyphenated last name.
Thank you.
Spencer Williams Hurley.
I think you know the witness stand is directly down to the left of the judge. And if you can remain standing and face the judge for your oath, please.
Right hand, please.
Raise right hand. Sir, do you swear any testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? You may be seated.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, would you state your name and spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Yes. My name is Lieutenant Spencer Williams Hurley. My last name is spelled Williams Hurley.
Thank you. You've given us many hints and suggestions, but I'll nevertheless ask for the record. What do you do for work?
I'm a police officer.
And a model.
And where are you currently?
Currently, I'm a patrol lieutenant with the Rochester Police Department.
And I'd like to ask you to give just a brief overview, if you will, a summary of your professional training and experience.
Strictly regarding law enforcement?
Correct.
Okay. So in 2014, I got hired by the Rochester Police Department, went to the police academy, which is about 4 months long. During that time, I also ended up going to SWAT 1 and 2. I'm a SWAT team leader. And then along with that, I've gone to several medical courses regarding emergency trauma.
And can you describe your progression through rank? You just referred, I think, to yourself as a lieutenant, which is a different change in rank even from the April 4th of last year.
Yep. So initially when I got hired on, I was a patrolman handling all sorts of various calls, whatever those may be, from stabbing, shootings, assaults, domestic violence, and the normal things that you're familiar with. As a patrol sergeant, you get set in charge of whatever's happening on your shift. Right? So you're the ultimate catch for liability, legality, policy violations, things along those lines, and you're kind of, for lack of a better way to say it, the parent of the shift. Right? I think almost decision will come through me. But as a lieutenant, it's even more so. There's much more of a legal aspect to it, as opposed to I'm no longer stopping cars. That makes sense.
Just briefly revisit that. So how long were you stopping cars as a patrol?
So I did that for about 6 years. I was a sergeant for about a year and a half, and then I became a lieutenant.
And to be clear, my understanding is patrol is a little bit more than just stopping cars. Did you respond to serious offenses over that period?
I've been through everything from attempted homicides, robberies, domestic violence cases, child abuse, child pornography, the litany of good and bad aspects of law enforcement.
All right. And not to get too far in the weeds and to frankly move on soon, you had mentioned to the jury that you had gone to the academy before you were hired. Can you just briefly summarize what that means in New Hampshire when an officer goes to the academy?
Yep. So at the time I went through the academy, again, it was 16 weeks. It was a live-in academy. Monday through Friday, you're there the entire time. Think of a less militaristic boot camp. During that time, we have training at all hours, both physical, academic. We have basic first aid. We have more advanced first aid, as well as the investigation of crimes, crime scene management, crime scene processing, mental health, and basically all aspects of our job. Following that, you have the field training period where you're with a senior officer, and that's kind of when you hone those skills in an on-the-job training kind of environment.
And finally, in addition to kind of the strictly law enforcement training experience, do you have additional training and experience that is integrated with, parallel to, relevant to your work in terms of medical training?
Yeah, so prior to becoming a police officer, I was in the military. I was a Navy corpsman for 6 years. What a Navy corpsman is, it's a medical field for both the Navy and the Marine Corps. During my time, I was attached to a Marine Corps infantry battalion. I did multiple combat tours with that. That part of that training, we have a 16-week hospital corpsman school. That's where we learn our basic functions in the medical field for the military. Following that, there's an additional 8 weeks of assignment to go to the Marine Corps side of things. During that time, it is entirely battlefield trauma, right? So gunshot wounds, stabbings, explosions, tourniquets, chest seals, trying to keep people alive until we can get them to a higher level of care, like a field hospital or an air medevac. From there, I also went to something called Operational Emergency Medical Skills. That's a 2-week course where we have more non-traditional methodologies for keeping people alive. I'm not going to go into the details of some of it, but it is a very advanced, it is very rigorous, and it is a very intense course where we have everything from your line level people that work in a hospital all the way up to high tier special operations that go through this course. It's a real eye-opener for a lot of people. And the main focus of that is being able to keep people alive as long as possible, because if we look at the human body as essentially like a plumbing system, right? How do we keep those pipes intact, right? And running as best as we can. With that, I had multiple combat tours to both Fallujah, Ramadi, and places where there was an extreme amount of combat. As a result, seeing a large number of, battlefield type injuries. I've also taught it hundreds of hours. I've probably taught tourniquets more frequently than I've made my own dinner in a lot of ways. I've been teaching thousands of people that for, at this point, probably the last
ladies, he does not cook. Does not
close
cook.
to 20 years.
Officer, I'd like to turn your attention to April 4th of last year. Were you on duty?
I was.
And did you become involved in this case, which I think you're familiar with, as State versus Jason Levesque?
Yes, we were at the station. I was going over some of the information with my sergeants for how that shift had gone prior to that. And then that's when we heard the call come over both the radio and the overhead dispatch.
And briefly describe your response, if you would.
I found with the other sergeants that were with me that night, because some of them were in a shadowing period, and we headed directly to that call.
Well, we may see some body cams, so can you clarify that shadowing period, what are you talking about?
Yep, so similar, remember how I said that after the academy we go through a field training period? So when someone gets promoted from patrolman to sergeant, they'll spend a little bit of time with either a senior sergeant or a lieutenant, kind of just showing, I think of it almost like an FTO period. But it's not about how to do the job, it's more about the nuances of that position, right? So who we're going to be notifying in certain situations, the requirements of them changes from when they're a patrolman, right? It's more the overall scene as opposed to an individual task more often than not.
And I'm sorry for that kind of side piece there. I just want to return to April 4th. You said that you received a call. What was the nature of the call?
From what I remember, it said that someone had called in, said that there were 4 shots and that their boyfriend was shot in the face. And usually when a call comes in, we only get a little snippet of the conversation that person had either with a 911 dispatcher or with our dispatcher.
How quickly did you respond after receiving that call?
Instantly. A matter of seconds.
And do you know whether other officers responded potentially before you even?
They did. Yep. So as we were leaving the building, you could already hear lights and sirens, the sirens, leaving the parking lot, heading in that direction.
Lights are
harder
harder to
offer
hear.
us a narrative of the events, your actions that you took from this point moving forward, please.
Yep. So as soon as I got with my other sergeants, we got into the supervisor's vehicle. The drive was very short. We're talking maybe a quarter of a mile in reality. Light sirens as fast as we could. Got over there. As I'm pulling up, I could see officers taking a man into custody at gunpoint. At that point, my focus is I have 2 sergeants with me. I know exactly how they're going to handle this situation. I know that I have an experience in medical, and I'm going to take advantage of that at that time. So we had already kind of distributed tasks while we were driving up there, and then I immediately started looking for who may be with a potential victim.
Were you able to find who you later learned to be Kyle Violet at the scene?
I did.
Can you describe where it is you found him?
On the sidewalk, kind of between a snowbank. There's the height of the snowbank and the nature of the light, and there was a storm going at the time. Was kind of hiding in a little bit of shadow, so at first it didn't quite register what was there. But I saw him laying on his back, head towards me, and I could see a fair amount of blood both on the sidewalk and on the snowbank beside him.
And after identifying somebody clearly in need of medical attention, what did you do?
Started trying to treat. So putting on gloves at that point in time, because again, if I don't know that person, we have to provide basic, protection for ourselves as well. So I started applying gloves. And then at that point, part of the treatment is trying to expose the wounds as much as possible to see exactly what we're dealing with.
Were there other officers adjacent or assisting you in this process?
There were.
And can you then describe for us, just with a narrative, what it is you did, what it is you saw?
Yep. So when I started, right off the bat, the obvious injuries, there was a wound to the left side of the jaw, which was very clearly a bullet hole. It also looked as though the round might have been lodged higher up in the cheek. As I exposed the torso, I started seeing a couple different holes, one on the lower right abdomen, one on the left rib cage, one on the upper part of the body near the collarbone on the left-hand side. We start trying to see what we're going to do for treatment of that. I couldn't see anything clearly that would say an extremity hemorrhage that would be like a tourniquet or something along those lines. So the idea is, if you kind of look at the torso, when there's a bleed or there's a hole there, the idea is you're trying to plug that hole as quick as possible. So your gloved hand will go over something like that. It prevents, one, oxygen from going into the cavity in case the lung collapses, and it also tries to prevent as much blood as possible from coming out. So if you think of it like a water balloon with small holes in it, you're trying to plug those holes as best as possible.
And you just described, as by my count, 1, 2, 3, 4 wounds. Did you examine the lower part of his body? Were you able to do that at the scene, given the time and circumstances?
No. We were able to get a rough idea of how much blood might have been there, and there was nothing to indicate at the time an arterial bleed that would have needed immediate attention, as opposed to the things more at the realm of his lungs. I also knew that we had EMS fairly quickly on the way. He was laying in the snow at that point in time, so there is an element of keeping them out of the snow and trying to keep them as warm as possible, given the scenario.
Can you tell us about any actual steps, interventions you took medically to either stabilize or to address the wounds that you did see?
Yep. So right off the bat, as I said, we're trying to keep as much of the fluid in the body and as much air out of the body as possible. So right off the bat, you go ahead and you cover those holes with a hand, gloved hand, things along those lines. When I lifted up his shirt and we started cutting away the shirt, I saw a hole up in the upper collarbone. My concern at that point in time is directly in that area, you have the subclavian vein, which is like a garden hose of the vein, where if that gets nicked, it can actually bleed quite profusely. When doing that, I actually take my fingers, which are gloved, and stick them into the wound to try to feel if I can see if there's blood coming from a particular location. That's also a benefit because it's kind of like the little boy sticking his finger in the well. We're trying to keep everything in there, and that's frankly a good way to do it. When we do that, I roll him over. I'm trying to check to see if there's any exit wounds. Again, at this point, we just know somebody was shot. I don't necessarily know the caliber. I don't know the power. I don't know if there is going to create an exit wound or if it's going to stay inside the body. So we're at least going to check. Didn't notice anything on the back, but that's also when we started noticing something on like the lower hip. Eventually, we also roll him over onto his side because he does have blood going into his mouth. I don't want him aspirating or bringing that into his lungs. So by allowing him to lay on his side as long as possible, it allows the blood to come out of the mouth and maintain an airway so that he can continue to try to talk and continue to breathe on his own.
At this juncture, while you were making these observations and interventions, are you making determinations about exit wounds and entry wounds, or not at this point?
Yes. So this is a constant evaluation. Again, this is one of those things that happens in the dark during a blizzard. A lot of things going on at one time that are kind of dividing attention. So it's a constant reevaluation. So one, are things that we are doing working? Also, are there new information that we're getting, such as locating an exit wound? Or from the time I got there to the time we are at that moment, has additional blood pooled up in the area? So it's a constant evaluation, both of those reasons, and then if we do something, which in one case we started putting chest seals on, which think of it like a plastic dressing, right? Nothing can get in or out of it. By putting those on, making sure that those are working as well and they're staying in place.
So were you wearing a body-worn camera while you responded to this scene?
I was. It sits right here.
Is it on now?
No, but it does sit right there.
Sorry. Look, would seeing the images from your body-worn camera accurately depict some of these issues you've described and the degree and nature of these injuries?
Yes.
Your Honor, may we?
Yeah.
All right, here comes the exhibit. We may or may not get to see this depending on where they place the TV.
Sure. So while we're doing that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to do instructions because
tip it over.
I anticipate that children will see part of this video, and I want to warn you that this video does contain some graphic images. But as you will be told,
that's good. Don't touch it.
Part of my instructions are going to be that you are not to decide this case based upon passion or sympathy or emotion, but you're to decide this case based upon the facts and the law. And to the extent that seeing any of this arouses any sympathy or passion or emotion, I'm going to ask you to set those feelings aside, and that you are not to rely upon any such feelings or sympathy or bias or emotion in reaching your verdict at the end of this case. Your verdict is to be based on facts and upon the law.
Don't push it anymore.
All right, and with that, we will continue on.
Sir, Your Honor, with the court's permission, may this witness step into the well?
Yes, and I will be moving myself.
This is a body camera image. We're probably going to lose our monetization on it, but I want to see this.
Very quite well. I want you to provide a mic possibly to assist the corporate. This may be another situation, Your Honor, where the lights would help.
The counsel, just to be clear, this is in for ID at this point, correct?
I construed your order, Your Honor, as a full exhibit.
Well, my ruling was based on...
I understand. So foundation.
Foundation, exactly. Foundation has not been established.
I understand, Your Honor. Thank you.
This is after the shooting.
We're showing you an additional still frame. Can you identify that?
Yes. So that would be Summer Street to the right. There's a victim sitting right there. That's a snowbank next to him.
Victim, you just used the term right there. Can I, for the record, just clarify, it appears to be in the sidewalk area adjacent to both a house and a utility pole?
Yes.
Okay. And this is essentially, you've just pointed out your body-worn camera, the perspective of you on this scene, literally the view from your chest. Counsel, I'd ask you to flip.
Sorry, can we hold that for 1 second? Can you stop the video for a second? Thank you. Counsel, do you want to make the record, or do you want? No, I mean, I just want to make sure we're clear here. This is still ID that's being played to the jury. Right. The ID has to be stricken. Correct. Before you go any further.
I understand. So, sir, does this appear to be a fair and accurate representation depicted by your body-worn camera?
Yes, this is the same.
That body-worn camera, can you confirm the protocol in terms of preserving it for evidence?
Yes. So the moment that we finish up any type of call, basically a couple things happen. So when we shut this off, it asks us to say that it has a particular type of file. So it could be accidental, a traffic stop, a case file, or something like that. I select case file because it's going to go into a case. And then when we get back to the station, it gets uploaded basically into the cloud, into our servers, and then we can assign that specifically to a case with a particular case number that has a unique identifier.
And did you take those steps in this case?
I did.
Your Honor, I move to strike the ID and move this video in as a full exhibit.
Any objection? With the same reservations and with the same instruction. Understood. The ID will be stricken. It's a full exhibit.
Thank you. Counselor?
No, and he's just there, just like that. Hey, hold on, he's just here. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, come in.
I'm gonna have to cut this because
You got another. I'm gonna get back in. Oh, sorry. Give me your taser. Okay. Do you have anything else on the front? Hey, I'm gonna roll you onto your back. Okay. Move your legs. Move your legs. Move your legs. Okay. Now roll over to the side. What else we got? So I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one covered. Okay. Hey, abdomen back, bud. Got the abdomen as well. Right here. Yep. Let's go right here. Okay. Sorry, buddy. Sorry, buddy. Here, take that out. Here, hold on, buddy. Can we get a little bit of gauze? So, do we have to get gauze to put on his head? No. Should we guys have that? Hey, David, do you have your leg? Can you go ahead and start cutting the rest of the shirt, please? That's my knife. Okay. Grab that, Sarah. I need someone to start cutting the rest of his shirt. Okay? Yep. Man, you need to back up.
Stand back, sir. Don't move.
Yeah, back up.
Stand by the building, please. Stand by the building.
Hey! Stand back here. Hey, we're going ahead. We're helping you out. We're helping you out.
Okay? EMS is on their way.
Hey, make sure his head gets up to the side.
His head. Show your head to the side.
Okay. Get your mouth. Get your
I hear a voice in the background and you directing to turn him onto his side. Can you explain why you were doing that?
Yes. So as you can see, especially from the beginning of the video towards this point, because he's laying on his back, that some of the blood is draining into his mouth. And you can see when he starts to talk, it starts to kind of come down his cheek. My idea is when you roll onto his side, it allows that to drain. Typically with chest injuries, we try to be careful with how we're going to be moving somebody, because especially if it's bleeding internally, we have to watch which way that blood is going to start flowing inside the body. So while we're applying these things, while we're cutting his shirt off, I don't want to lay on his side because again, we have a hook that's ripping his clothes. I don't want to accidentally hit him. So as long as we can keep on his back, we're going to, and then once we start seeing a little bit of blood forming in his mouth, moving him onto the side, in order to allow that blood to come.
There has been, I think, some reference to packing injuries. I note that there was some attention drawn to the abdomen. What does that mean to pack a wound?
So when we start talking, especially when like the hips, the shoulders, and those kind of areas, something like a tourniquet's not going to work, right? It doesn't have an ability to squeeze the blood vessel against the bone to shut off blood flow. So we have to find alternative methods. When when I first was able to lift his shirt up, and I noticed the one under his collar, you'll see my hand move up, and I actually stick my fingers into the wounds to try to do exactly that. I'm trying to provide pressure inside the wound to prevent it from further bleeding. That's not a thing that I can reasonably continue to do for a long period of time, right? Unless I followed him all the way to the hospital and to the surgery room, that's not going to work. So the idea is that we'll take something like gauze, right, or specifically something called combat gauze, which has an anticoagulant in it, or sorry, it actually has a clotting agent, embedded in the gauze. And what we do is we pack it and try to fill that space up as much as possible to prevent that bleeding. Otherwise, if that bleed continues, it continues to form inside the body, pooling like a traditional internal bleed that you would think. And that might require, and that almost always requires surgical intervention to get it to stop, at risk of continuing to bleed unsharp.
Councilman, can you please?
I'm going to roll on this side as soon as that's clear. Okay? So I'm going to roll. Yep. So I'm going to do this and cover here. Go ahead, keep your mouth open. All right. Any blood, we're going to go ahead and let it roll out of your mouth. All right, buddy? I don't see anything here. Go ahead and get your glass open.
He has an
Really, I don't know.
Oh, his jaw.
Yeah, that's okay though. That's okay. I don't see anything else here. Oh, hold on, buddy.
Can I stay still, okay?
So we have a shotgun shot to the upper chest, one under my hand. We also have the lower abdomen.
No, please take care.
And once you get your grip on you, start setting up tape. Okay, ready? Okay, so that's that one? Yep, so we got one on the abdomen. There's one under my hand as well. My right hand, but it's covered up by the sweatshirt. Okay, is there just has one to the face. Yeah, there's one to the face and the jaw. Okay. Okay? So I haven't had a chance to get over those two. Yeah. What's in there? Oh, there.
I have some.
I got my pocket.
Hey, stay with me, okay? Just stay with me, all right? Yes, ma'am. Okay? Just stay with us, okay? EMS is here, all right?
So can you with your left hand, can you go ahead and slide his arm out of the sweatshirt?
Ma'am, you need to stop asking us questions right now. Okay, he's still breathing. Upper chest, lower abdomen, and his jaw. His left side of his jaw. Turn your head for me.
So we're leaving him on the side, so you can cut that drain out. Okay? I don't see the accident on the back at all. We haven't really checked the other side, but we have enough pressure with the water there, so I'm going to get through. Right under my hand, there's one under the skin as well.
So you need another. There's a chest right behind you. Right there. There's one extra in there. Right up. No, left. Right there.
Yep. Right there.
And there is probably some stuff in there if you need it, but stay in your house, sir. Stay in your house. In the first aid bag on either the left-hand side or right-hand side. No, you're going to be okay, all right? Just stay with us. They're here. They're going to help you.
Okay.
Another one up here. Okay. I'll pick out anyone right there. That's fine. We have more tests. We have some on the chalk. So we're going to lift you, okay?
Okay, I'll hold under his head. There's something on that arm. 1, 2, 3. You want to slide it further down? His head's hanging off. So we got right under it here as well, but there's nothing, I couldn't feel any kind of pressure from it.
So what kind of gun?
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, you may return to the witness stand.
video shows after the first shot, he dropped to the ground, and there were 5 more after that.
I'll ask it this way. Why did you do the things you did there in this instance?
They would have been medically necessary. If in a lot of those circumstances, especially the abdomen bleed or the upper chest bleed, one of the concerns that we have is like most things, when there's that initial impact of a high velocity bullet, right? The body does have a mechanism of self-protection, right? Muscles are going to, it's almost like when you hit your elbow really hard on the table, right? Because the muscle contracts. And what can that happen is that can prevent blood flow from going for a little while. But when the body starts to relax or you've lost enough blood, it then opens up like floodgates. So those kind of interventions are medically necessary to keep a person alive long enough to be able to actually get to a hospital.
I was going to ask, to what degree of medical necessity, but you just stated that this was to keep him alive.
Yes.
Do you consider that a fair assessment based on your training experience and what you witnessed there?
I do.
The quick response and the training of the first responders saved his life.
That the video depicts you transferring this patient now to EMS, right?
Yes.
And at that point, did your involvement medically essentially cease?
Correct.
Can you just briefly summarize then your involvement following Mr. Violet being taken to the hospital?
Yep, I assisted in cordoning off the area. I contacted the support captain to try to get our detective bureau started to come out, because at that point our main focus is scene security. I don't want anyone in or out. I want to preserve the scene as much as possible and then pass it on to a higher level investigation, because the amount of time necessary to further this goes often beyond the capabilities of patrol, and we want to move it to our detective bureau.
Did you participate in or make any orders to protect the integrity of the scene?
Besides further or improving the tape barrier, nope. Sergeant Smith was able to handle the majority of that.
You're the first person to refer to the tape barrier, so can you just clarify that?
Yep, so it's just your traditional crime scene tape around the outside. The idea is we make it as large as possible because we can always shrink it after the fact. And that was one of the things that I had done, is make the scene larger to make sure we isolate as much of the original evidence as possible.
And following your efforts to communicate information on to detectives, secure the scene, did you play any additional role that night?
No.
And essentially, it sounds like you passed it on to the detectives. Did they show up?
They did.
Okay.
They better.
If I could just have a minute here. Sir, thank you for your time. Attorney Sisti, I think you've met, has some questions as well.
Thank you.
Let's see how they cross him here.
Good afternoon.
First, I just want to say that was a really great job you guys did.
Thank you.
And your community should be really proud of you, honestly.
Thank you very much.
My client thanks you for saving his life.
During the course of the emergency treatment there, and you explained
the charges
to the jury, we were hearing Kyle say things to you. That's generally a very good thing to hear when you're in that situation, correct?
Yeah. It is. Yes.
Yeah. He was responding to some of the things you were saying, right?
Correct.
What kind of things was he responding to, just so we can get a better idea?
Well, one of the main focuses is when we talk to people. One is to reassure them. That helps stave off shock a little bit. It also, you want people to continue to have the will to fight, to go further. So by constantly reassuring, you keep that interaction. It also allows me to establish the integrity of his airway, right? Because if he can talk, I understand that at least something can go in and out, right? And then also, a lot of times what we'll do is people know where they've been hurt. So especially in the beginning of the video, you hear him repeatedly saying, "My face, my face, my face."
Okay, so he was, thank God, he was conscious, and he was at least responding to some degree.
Yes.
He was able to articulate certain aspects of his injuries and point to where he believed he was shot. Correct.
Correct.
And that was 7 minutes or so, and he was able to sustain it wasn't a great level of communication, but some level of communication all the way until loading them onto the ambulance.
Yes, and that's pretty common, especially with gunshot wound victims in the torso, is they usually stay conscious.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thanks again.
Absolutely.
Defense wants to say that after that first shot, he continued verbally threatening.
Say the way he said it. I mean, we could hear it. The way he said, my face, my face. Does that change your view at all about the likelihood he would die if there wasn't serious medical intervention?
It's not so much exactly what he's saying, but it's how what he says changes over time. In the beginning, he was saying, my face, my face, my face. When he's rolled onto his side, it eventually changed to, I'm dying. And what that is as one of a big symptom of something called a tension pneumothorax, which is where the lung collapses and pressure slowly builds up in that chest cavity, which is one of the main reasons why we covered that wound to prevent air from going in, is this sense of impending doom, right? So this anxiety, because slowly you're losing the ability to take full breaths. You're not getting as much oxygen. You've lost blood, so you're not able to get it enough through your tissues, right? The perfusion of oxygen through your tissues. So what happens is it's a slow onset of anxiety that's very common with both bleeding out and with severe trauma where you're slowly suffocating to death.
This guy's got the smarts and the skills.
No, thank you.
We need more like him. Great witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Officer Tiana Adams.
And apparently has some looks. I didn't notice the looks, but apparently he's ruggedly handsome or something like that was what your words were. Great witness, though. I don't think it gave the defense what they're looking for to say that the victim was speaking and still threatening after he first went down. I think it was nearly lights out. He was probably fighting for consciousness.
Probably where the witness stand is to the left of the judge. If you could approach the witness stand, face the judge, and remain standing for your own, please.
Did he wink? I'm going to go watch the replay.
Officer, you raise your right hand. You swear that any testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury. You may be seated. Counsel, you may inquire for your
Honor. Good afternoon, Officer Adams.
Good afternoon.
This may seem a little bit obvious, given both your title and what you're currently wearing, but can you tell us a little bit about what you do for work?
Yes, I work for the Rochester Police Department in the patrol division.
How long have you worked there?
I've been hired for approximately 2 years now.
2 years. So last April, around when this incident occurred, had you been there for a full year at that point?
On the road by myself, no. Hired, almost, yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that. Can you just explain the distinction?
Yes, of course. So you go through a long hiring process, background checks, stuff like that, and that sometimes it takes a few months. Then you do some training in-house with the police department, and then you go to the academy, and you go through the academy for a period of 16 weeks, and then you do field training on the road with a field training officer for approximately 3 months, and then you get released on your own.
So I just want to clarify, because I think I may have gotten lost. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. April 4th of last year, were you on your own?
Yes, I was.
You were on your own?
Yep.
Thank you for clarifying. Was that a new development for you in your career, or had you been there for a little bit?
Yes, it was. I was on my own for maybe a month at that point.
I'm going to show you the replay of the wink while we continue to listen to this witness. Were you on duty
working on April 4th, 2024?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall what shift you were working?
I was on the midnight shift.
Do you recall responding to the area of 4143 Summer Street?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got called out to that address?
I don't recall who exactly called me. I just know that I went into shift early and was asked to head out to that address to assist with whoever needed assistance.
When you responded to the phone, when you got told to go out there, did you know the situation that you were responding to?
I didn't know many details, no. I knew that an incident had occurred and go touch base with one of the sergeants on scene to see where I was needed.
We all kind of visited a couple of days ago or yesterday. The address is in question. How far is it approximately from the police station?
I don't know exactly, maybe a minute, not even response time.
Is it fair to say it didn't take you very long to get there?
Correct.
Once you arrived there, can you tell us a little bit about what you saw?
So I didn't really see 41 or 43. I went and touched base with my sergeant, and then my sergeant had me go do a different project.
So I just want to clarify, were you kind of on the street at that point? Did you get to the general street of Summer Street?
Yes, I did, yes.
Okay. You said your sergeant did, I'm sorry, I just want you to, if you could repeat yourself on that. What did your sergeant ask you to do?
I went and spoke with my sergeant. Her and I walked to one of the neighboring houses to speak with the neighbors about the incident that occurred.
Do you recall?
He was in the gallery already when he weeks.
I don't, unfortunately.
That was not
okay.
jury.
Did you, at the time of this incident, draft a report?
Yes,
part
I
of your
did.
duties as a police officer?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of the report?
We document what we saw when we arrived, the date that it occurred on, what officers write in the report, the address we respond to, who we speak to, what they said, if we got any footage or videos we include in our report, say it's attached to the case and information like that.
Would the address that you responded to be included in your report?
Yes, it would.
If I showed you a copy of that report, would it maybe help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Page 6, counsel.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Thank you. Officer Adams, I'm showing you a copy of your report from that night. If you don't mind just briefly reviewing it, I believe it is the second paragraph, and just clear up. Does that help refresh your recollection of the address that you responded to?
Yes, it does.
And what address was that?
I responded to 41, and part of my report says I went to 38.
When you went to 38 Summer Street, can you tell us a little bit about what you did once you got there?
Yes, so upon approach, I observed a ring camera. I knocked on the door and I spoke with the resident. My sergeant started speaking with her about the incident that had occurred, asked her a few questions if she had heard anything like that. And then we asked to see her ring camera footage.
Did you personally view that footage with the camera?
Yes, I did.
If I were to show you that footage, would you be able to identify it?
Yes.
Today? Your Honor, I believe we will need to set up for another view. Thank you.
Judge says we need another view, so I'll show you one more time. Let's go with full screen on this one. Last chance, then we're done.
Yes.
Just showing you this. He passes the jury. Watch. He walks through the well, around the table here for the defense. Turns over to the aisle in the gallery. Now he looks over into the gallery and gives the wink. So it was not a juror. It was not any of that.
We're just moving because of the instruction, Judge. That's all. Yes.
Your Honor, with permission, I would step down.
Yes.
Your Honor, if you just briefly step down from the witness stand. Thank you.
Would remind everyone that we do often have people who are close to the situation join us here in chat, so please be respectful to everybody on both sides, and especially the witnesses who are subpoenaed to be here. They don't have a choice.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Officer Adams, I'm showing you right now, it is a essentially still shot at the very beginning of a video. Does this look familiar to you? How do you recognize this video?
I recognize it as the ring camera footage from the residence.
Now I just want to be clear, this ring camera footage, does this show you the specific address of 41 or 43 Summer Street?
It's next door.
Okay. What, based on your review of this, were you able to determine in reviewing this video?
I compared the argument and the shots that were fired.
So this is for the argument and the shots.
Is this how you recall seeing the video when you viewed it?
Is that where you're going to stand? Mo in the deep end just joined us on the raid. Thank you very much, Mo.
you viewed this footage from the resident of 38 Summer Street, what did you then do?
I asked her if she was willing to send it to me via text or email, and she agreed to do so.
She did do so? Did that conclude your involvement? Apologies, you can return, Your Honor. This concludes our use of the television for this particular witness.
Thank you.
Officer Adams, I'll re-ask my questions. I interrupted myself a little bit there. Did that conclude your involvement that evening for the purposes of investigation for this incident?
I spoke with the resident and her son from that location. I went back to the police department and I sat in the lobby with the suspect's daughter while she waited to be interviewed with detectives, and that was my end of my involvement.
I just want to clarify, did you personally interview
I did not.
daughter?
No, I did not.
After her interview was concluded, did you have any further involvement?
I did drive her home, yes.
Did that ultimately end your involvement?
Yes, it did.
Just a moment, Your Honor. All right. Officer Adams, I have no further questions for you. I imagine defense may have a few.
Just a couple. Let me ask you something. You said you heard an argument and you heard gunshots.
In the video, yes, I did.
Yeah, okay. You didn't hear what was said prior to the gunshots?
I did not know, not in that particular video, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further?
Just very briefly, Your Honor. I just want to clarify, when you say you heard arguments, was that the kind of noise that we heard just prior to the gunshot?
The conversation afterwards that is what I was speaking about.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Your Honor, I have no further questions for this witness.
Okay, you can be excused, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. The state would call Detective Kyle Daney to the stand.
Very good.
Yes, Your Honor, can you turn both just step up, please? I think I know what you're about to ask.
Sorry. No, my bad. I think we're going to take our afternoon break. We've been going about an hour. I try not to go too much more than an hour's spell. So we're going to take our afternoon break.
Another break?
We're trying to keep this one short, though, so we can keep it 7 minutes. That would be great.
7-minute break.
All right. Please rise. Jury departure.
All right, so the jury leaves. We get 7 minutes of break, which is great because we get to catch up the rest of the way because we were just a moment behind. So now we're back with live. Let's see. And we see the wink again, asking for a friend. I'm just telling you, I happen to have like my own screen over here where I can do whatever I want, and I'm not replaying anything over here. I'm just kidding. I'll show you. You guys are terrible, by the way. You're absolutely terrible. Let's rewind to when he got off the stand here.
Are we ready to hear, right?
Yeah, just a brief issue, Judge. The court TV or the cameraman did me the courtesy of asking whether they were allowed to publish. Apparently they were able to capture some portions of the video that was played, the medical video, and they pointed out that there is no standing order in this case. I've conferred with counsel. Counsel's position is that it unnecessarily raises issues to publish something of that nature during the pendency of the trial. I'll be quite candid, it's not an issue that I did research prior to this case.
Seriously?
Or when the issue came up, which was just minutes ago. But my bottom line approach to this kind of issue is I don't want to create any problems. We've got two alternates. I fully respect First Amendment issues, press rights. There are limitations, however, and I'll defer to the defense in terms of their concern.
Defense that position on that?
Yeah, the position is that further that not take place. I mean, I've been in like fourth jury trial in 4 weeks, 2 of them ended in this trial. I think we should protect what we have right now and make sure that we land tighter. There's a need for additional publication. I don't have a problem with anybody who's courtroom or seeing what they can see, vantage points in which they stand, but to create other vantage points, possibilities, potential for tomorrow.
All right, I tend to agree with that. I think that given the particularly graphic nature of that footage that was shown, I would prefer it not to be published to the world at this point. I do understand the First Amendment issue involving the public right to access the courtroom and to be in a position to see whatever someone in the public will be allowed to see if they are here. But I would prefer that not risk any prejudice.
I construe your preference as an order, Your Honor.
Are they looking for an order?
They just refer to the fact that there was not an order that they refer to as generally present in these types of matters.
I'm not aware of the standing order from this court involving.
I'm not either.
What teaching and not. I know there's conversations and negotiations between the clerk's office, the administrative office of courts, which dealt with their access, and so I'm not aware of any standing order. So that's where it's involved. I don't want to create a problem either way. I don't want to create unnecessary litigation either way.
Okay, this is an important little argument they're having right now. So I'm going to take out all the noise.
Nobody was placed on notice, prior to the trial. I'd be happy to litigate it pre-trial, but we're in the middle of this thing right now.
And how is the question posed?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I was curious how the question was posed to the state on this issue of the publication of the video.
I just approached him after, and I didn't have a straight-on shot of it. It was an angle shot, and it wasn't great. But I just don't want any issues.
So I think you heard me. My preference would be that video not be shared on live stream.
It's live.
Not.
You can't put the poop back in the horse.
Not ordering it.
Horse may be out of the barn in that they were streaming live.
Yeah, it's already streaming live. That horse is out of the barn. So
heard me about the horse.
The question would be somehow there was an issue in the future if there was a plan. It's already done. And as I said, they have the same access way.
Okay, hold tight. I'm gonna. They're gonna go to a break. I'm gonna play that for you with without the noise. How about that?
Stay with Call Detective Kyle Danny. Stand.
That's the wrong one. Hang on. Let's find where are we at. We need. Give me a second here. Reset. Okay, give me a second to get this pulled up on screen. All right, we're going to, the argument that they just had, basically the state brought up a problem with this video being shown publicly. So let me bring this on. Let's see. Super source. Box 3 is going to be 3. There we go. So let's go here. And let me make it full screen. Okay. So here we go.
Are we ready to move through, right? Yeah, just a brief issue, Judge.
Noise removed.
The court and TV are the cameraman did me the courtesy of asking whether they were allowed to publish. Apparently, they were able to capture some portions of the video that was played, the medical video, and they pointed out that there is no standing order in this case. I've conferred with counsel. The defense counsel's position is that it unnecessarily raises issues to publish something of that nature during the pendency of the trial. To be quite candid, it's not an issue that I did research prior to this case, or when the issue came up, which was just minutes ago. But my bottom line approach to this kind of issues, I don't want to create any problems. We've got two alternates. I fully respect First Amendment issues, press rights. There are limitations, however, and I'll defer to the defense in terms of their concern.
You have that position on that? Yeah, the position is that clearly that not taking place, and we have liberty, for jury trial and for two of them, they be mistrial. I think we should protect what we have right now and make sure what we let here. I don't think there's a need for vision and publication. I don't have a problem with anybody who is cooperating or seeing that they can see, advantage of which they stand, but degree of advantage of possibility that the potential is similar. All right, I kind of agree with that. I think that given the...
Okay, pause there. So the state says, the court TV came up to him and said, hey, it's cool, we're showing this, right? And he's like, let me ask. And he checks with defense, and defense says, I don't like it because if we have a mistrial, then we could potentially be, polluting the jury pool for the new trial. And so I don't think they can show it. And then he says, I don't have any problem with anybody in court seeing it. I just don't think we should show it publicly over the TV. Well, guess what? We saw what we saw. Okay?
Particularly graphic pictures of that footage that is being shown, I would prefer it not to be published.
Judge says I'd prefer it not be published to the world.
Issue involving public right to access the courtroom and be in a position to see whatever comes from the public can be around and see if they are here. But I would prefer that not risk.
I construe your preference as an order, Your Honor. They just refer to the fact that there was not an order that they refer to as generally present in these types of matters.
There's no standing order. I'm just going to say it's my preference. Does not issue an order.
The administrative office reports, you still have bigger access, and so I'm on very continuing. So, yeah, we're in all.
He just says, I prefer it not be released.
Don't want to create a problem in the way.
Don't want to create a problem in the future. Assuming there's a mistrial, that would be a problem, potentially. So that's all. That's our update. So interesting little argument there. We're gonna go back to live because they are back from break. So give us a second and let's do this. There we go. I wish I could take the sound and fix it live.
Yeah, just a brief issue, Judge. The court TV or the cameraman did me the courtesy of asking
we just saw this already.
Were allowed.
Hang on. We got that. Then you took a tiny break. Right here.
Come on up here again. You raise your right hand. You swear that any testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and the pain penalty of perjury. You can see it. Ask you to scoot up to the microphone there, and your voice up so everyone can hear you. Counsel, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you state your name, please, and spell it for the court reporter?
Yep, it's Kimberly Edwards, Kimberly Edwards.
What do you do for work?
What was that?
What do you do for work?
I'm a national registered paramedic at Frisbee Memorial Hospital.
I think our conversation can be relatively brief, but if you could indulge us in a summary of your training and experience and your history of work in this area.
Yep. So I started in the medical field in the military. I was in the military for 8 years, and I worked at a hospital for 8 years, for 4 years with the military, increasing my medical knowledge. When I got out of the military, I joined EMS, and I started as a EMT basic for 2 years and another 3 years as an advanced EMT, and since then I've been working as a paramedic.
And you say as a paramedic, is there a distinction between paramedic, EMT?
Yep, so as a basic EMT, you can give minimal drugs such as oxygen and aspirin. And as you advance your career, you can give more medications and do more interventions. As an advanced EMT, you can start an IV, give some saline if the patient needs it, if they're dehydrated or whatnot. And as a paramedic, we can do more medication, more life-saving medications and interventions, to include taking someone's airway if they were to lose their airway.
Did you respond to the area of 4341 Summer Street on April 4th last year?
I did.
And what was the nature of that call?
So that evening we got dispatched for multiple gunshot wounds. We arrived on scene to find a patient on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds.
Do you have an estimate of how long it took you to respond to the scene, to arrive at the scene from the time you took the call?
I believe it's about a mile, so it was probably only 2 minutes at most.
Very well. And did you, in fact, attend to a patient at the scene and transport that individual to Frisbee Memorial Hospital?
Yes, I did.
Can you just please summarize, what you saw and what you did during that period of time?
Yep. So when we arrived on scene, PD was rendering medical care along with controlling the scene. So the officer that I took report from had already placed 2 chest seals to the patient. He said that there was multiple other wounds. He did not at the time have a count, due to it being dark out and the patient being fully clothed. At that time, there were many people there, a lot of people that were distraught and upset, and my partner and I felt that the scene wasn't very secure enough to be able to do a adequate enough assessment on this patient, so we deemed it very necessary to extricate the patient as quick as possible and get him in the back of the ambulance. So we did so. My partner and I, with the assistance of PD, lifted the patient onto the stretcher and put him in the back of the ambulance, where we were able to fully unclothe the patient and find that he had approximately 7 gunshot wounds to his body in multiple locations. At that time, the patient was able to speak to us in very gargled and incomplete sentences. He had blood coming from the airway that we were suctioning throughout our transport to the hospital. We had the decision to either continue on to Portsmouth, where he would get definitive care, or take him to a closer hospital, so that way he could get emergent care and stabilize him. Due to the amount of wounds and the copious amount of blood that he had lost at that time, we did take him to Frisbee Hospital to receive emergent stabilizing care.
And so what was the kind of amount of time you spent from the scene to Frisbee, which is somewhat nearby?
Maybe 10 minutes.
Okay. And can I ask you then, and I'll follow up if you feel like additional detail is needed, but can you summarize, you said you saw 7 gunshot wounds. Does your reference to gunshot wounds include entry and exit wounds? Are you even making that determination?
I'm not making the determination of exit wounds and whatnot, because...
Can you briefly summarize for the jury the observations in terms of wounds in his medical condition that you observed during that some 10-minute period of time?
Yeah, so he had a collapsed lung due to a gunshot wound to the upper left-hand side. He had multiple gunshot wounds to his buttocks and down in his genital area. He had one going through his jaw and lodged into the other side of the jaw, which was making it difficult to get the blood out of his airway and making it difficult for us to, if we needed to, take his airway and breathe for him.
And any other treatment that you provided that you have?
Just wound care, stopped the bleeding of some of the other wounds that we had found during the transport, suctioning and keeping his airway clear and open. We did attempt to do vital signs. We were only able to get his heart rate and his oxygen saturation due to the patient being just unable to sit still due to the amount of pain and anxiety that he was in at the time. So he was flailing around and we weren't able to get a blood pressure, which made it unsafe for us to continue on to Portsmouth at that time. We attempted an IV, but it got torn out on the way into the hospital. So that was all the care that we were able to render at the time.
You've described your patient, Mr. Violet, as being anxious and having a hard time being still. Is he conscious through this process?
He was conscious and aware that he had been shot, other than saying that I got shot and I'm going to die and giving us his name. He was really not able to say much more than that.
And were you able to successfully transport and pass on this patient to the emergent care that you just referred to at Frisbee Memorial Hospital?
Yep, we did get him to Frisbee and transfer him to the nurses and physician.
Do you know a doctor named Dr. Freeze at Frisbee Memorial?
Yes.
Are you aware that he was on scene as well?
He was at the hospital.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, if I could just thank you. Those were the questions I had. Attorney Sisti, I'm not sure you've met before, may have some follow-up questions if you like.
Thanks for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for coming.
This time the state would like to call Kyle Daney to the stand.
That's Kyle. Did you say Kyle Violet or Kyle somebody else? Are they bringing the victim in?
Sir, I trust you know where the witness stand is.
That's not him. That's not the victim. Oh, this is the detective. Thank you, Jasmine. Appreciate it. The other Kyle.
Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us about what your job is, though I do think I gave it away?
My name is Kyle Daney. I'm employed full-time by the Rochester Police Department. I'm currently a full-time detective there. I've been with the department since 2013, and I've been a detective for about 3 years within the division.
Can you tell us a little bit about kind of your come up to detective, your training and experience, where you started off, a little bit of that background?
Sure. Academy first, field training, eventually solo patrol for a while. Eventually I worked into a community engagement division and into a problem-oriented policing division that kind of focused more on problem chronic issues and narcotics, and then worked my way into detectives. During that time also, around probably 2017, 2018, I began working as almost a specialty position or an extra added position of added responsibilities of working on what we called our evidence team. It was more specialized in if we had a scene that was a little bit larger, officers that were a little bit higher trained in the collection, the preservation of a crime scene, documentation of a crime scene, and then the preservation and collection of evidence.
So I'm glad you brought that.
I didn't take your last name.
Yep, yeah, it's Daney, D-A-N-I-E.
And
D-A-N-I-E.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I'm glad you brought up the evidence training. Can you tell us a little bit about the specialized training specifically that you've undergone in terms of collecting evidence, assessing a scene, that whole genre of police investigation?
Sure. Just looking kind of at our training coordinator, I said, hey, can I get my past training on all of evidence? And I'd like to say that it's about a month long of, the 40 hours one week, 40 hours another week. I took a basic 3-week-long training on the collection of evidence, I think from what was called Forensics Training Services, LLC. It's a company that really went from like nuts to bolts of responding to the scene, the preservation of the actual scene itself, and working into photography, different types of things that you might wear to preserve the scene, as well as then working into photographing the scene, collecting those pieces of evidence, and then potentially even examining those pieces of evidence further, whether it's a chemical process, dusting for latent prints with fingerprint powder, as well as other things like that. With that training, I've taken additional crime scene photography trainings, fingerprint trainings. The academy now in New Hampshire is certifying their officers, all the recruits, through a basic crime scene training that's 1 week long. I've also gone back to take that, advanced photography, vehicle processing, and so on that way. We aren't a forensic lab per se. I can process certain pieces of evidence, but at some point we stop and send that to the New Hampshire State Lab for further examination, depending on the piece of evidence and the case.
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, and then we'll backtrack a little bit just because of talking about your evidence experience. Was part of your role in this investigation processing the scene?
It was.
I'd just like you to tell us a little bit about specifically the role a detective serves at Rochester Police Department versus, we've heard from sergeants, we've heard from patrol officers, so specifically your duties and responsibilities aside from that evidence collection training that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. So in Rochester, we currently have 7 detectives, there's a couple other open positions, and a detective lieutenant. We do get some cases firsthand, and when I say that, meaning typically your patrol officer is the first to respond to a 911 call. Detectives, though, sometimes might come to a major call out where there's an active scene going on. And so we might respond to those things like drug overdose deaths, homicides, physical assault, sex assaults, things like that we would respond out to pretty much on scene if that happened. Otherwise, we're getting a lot of things that were past tense. I'm applying for search warrants. My day-to-day is really interviewing people, developing probable cause, writing search warrants, obtaining the records from different companies, video, things like that, and so on, and building a case over time. Typically something that happened after the fact that I'm following up, sometimes from an initial officer's report or initial sergeant's report.
Thank you, Detective. I appreciate you going through all of that with us. I know it's new to some people.
Not a problem.
Jury. So were you working on the day of April 4th, 2024?
I wasn't at the time.
You weren't. Did you end up working on that day?
I did, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that happened?
I got called in we have 2 detectives that are typically on call just in case no one is in. I got a call saying, hey, we have a major scene, we have a shooting. Those 2 detectives are tied up with the suspected shooter. We need someone to come in and assist with the processing of a crime scene. And so that's why I was called.
So were you at the police station when you got this call in?
I was at home.
You were at home. Did you go to Summer Street first?
No.
Where did you go first?
I went to the police department, which is pretty typical of any type of call out. I go to dispatch, I like to see what do we have, what do we need for resources, where is this crime scene, what are the things I should be bringing, because I made that mistake before of it being very cold or very hot, and just getting any other information before going.
So once you arrived at the police station, did you become aware of anything? Did you speak with anyone there to make you aware of anything?
Yes, so Officer Birmingham had been back at the station, and from speaking with him briefly, he had been one of the responding officers. He had obtained, it looked to me like a video, like he used a department cruiser phone and videotaped a phone that was playing a video surveillance of and the incident that I was supposed to be going out and documenting.
Were you aware at that time of where that footage came from?
I was told that it was from the cameras of 43 Summer Street, which was the alleged victim here, Kyle Violette's house.
So I believe we've already seen that video. Did you personally view that video?
The one that Officer Birmingham showed me, I did.
After you viewed that video, is that at that point, did you go out to Summer Street?
After grabbing the evidence kit and everything else I needed, yes.
When you arrived at Summer Street, can you tell us a little bit about what you see as you drive up?
Yep. So it was 10. I want to say 10:40, maybe 11. It could be even later than that. So it was dark. It was very cold. It was kind of spitting snow. It had snowed a little bit that day too. There was a couple of different police cruisers that were in the roadway of Summer Street, facing out of town. Like if you're familiar with I know you guys did a kind of a walk-through area, but away from the police department, towards heading towards Eastern Ave. They're facing that way as if they were responding to the call in the roadway, and then there was some yellow caution tape kind of wrapped around some of those cruisers over to a telephone pole to kind of preserve what was believed to be the entire scene.
So after you arrived, you kind of take this scene in. What is your first step in investigation, evidence processing, scene management? What's kind of the first thing you do as you get out of your cruiser?
Yep. So once I meet with whoever was there, so it was Lieutenant Hurley was kind of on scene to point outside the caution tape what they might have seen. I start taking initial photographs. The reason being is I don't want it, anytime I go into a scene, I could introduce either contamination, I could kick something over or anything. So I try to take as much overall photos that show the big picture before we start to go into that scene and look more.
Would you recognize some of those photos if we showed them to you today?
I would.
Your Honor, may I approach? Thank you. Can I see if these are the... Great.
Rather, these are full exhibits.
These are exhibits 16, 17, and 18. Today, showing you what has been already admitted to exhibit 16, 17, and 18. Would you mind taking a look at those pictures and telling us what you see?
Yep, so 16, 17, and 18 appear to be the roadway that would have been in front of 41 Summer Street. And some of these are pictures that I believe an officer must have either taken or body cam before.
Is this visuals depicted in these pictures? Are they familiar to you having arrived on the scene before?
The physical layout and the blood on the ground, yes. When I arrived, EMTs had already left the scene as well.
Is this accurate for how the scene appeared minus the EMTs in the corner?
Yes.
Is the blood on the street accurate how it appeared to you?
Yes.
Is the snow on the street accurate how it appeared to you?
Yes.
Your Honor, thank you. Again, I believe you've already been told, but you will have copies of these in your deliberation room. Detective Danny, aside from taking pictures when you arrived on the scene and general observation, did you do anything else regarding evidence collection when you arrived?
Yep. So after taking initial photographs, we started to search the scene for pieces of evidence. I had previously been pointed out by the lieutenant, hey, there's shell casings that they had located with a flashlight And so from there, we put placards, which is the yellow marker. You might see a number on it. I started with 5 because that's what I had. So we have to go, I believe it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I put a placard by that piece of evidence so that I know not to step on it, as well as to take a photo widescreen so that you can see all those placards and be like, okay, what was placard number 7? And you look and see what that was. And then I'd also take a mid-range and then a close-up of placard, say number 7, with whatever piece that evidence was.
Once you photograph the location of these shell cases, actually I'm going to back up a little bit. Can you just clarify for everyone so we're all on the same page what a shell casing is?
Yep. So with a firearm, you have a shell casing that is enclosed. I'm not by any means a firearms expert or anything, but you have a shell casing, usually brass, metal, that is enclosed with some gunpowder as well as other materials, and then a projectile, usually a lead bullet. And so when a firearm, shoots, it extracts that shell casing after that explosion goes off and a projectile goes out the barrel of the firearm, and the shell casing will get ejected, depending on the type of handgun it is. If it's a revolver, obviously it stays inside, but a automatic, like a handgun, it would extract shooting off.
So we're going to focus on these shell casings for a little bit. Once you photographed where they were, you marked them with the placards, what are kind of your next steps specifically regarding evidence collection for these shell casings? How do you preserve those?
So you said after photographing? So 6 shell casings were located on the ground. After they were photographed close range so you can see, they would be individually taken wearing gloves, put them into a paper envelope, packaged separately.
Your Honor, may I approach? Thank you. Counsel, this is 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, sorry, Detective Daney, is this the type of envelope that it would be put in?
Yes.
Time? If I were to show you these envelopes and then you would be able to determine whether or not these shell casings, these shell casings.
Yes.
Without.
Right. So I'm just looking for the evidence label, Rochester Police Department. Like this one says 9mm Luger shell casing, placard number 10. So I remember that's placard number 10. This is evidence tape. I have my signature and the date that it was signed, making sure that it wasn't reopened or anything like that.
So even without opening those envelopes, are you able to confidently attest that those are shell casings you retrieved?
These are the shell casings I collected.
Your Honor, I do move for these shell casings to be admitted as full exhibits. These are states 13, 14, 14, 12, 9, 10, 11. That are currently marked right.
That's without objection.
No objection. So exhibits 9 through 14 are full exhibits.
Detective Daney, I'm just going to open these for simplicity's sake. Doesn't matter.
She opens it for him. Never seen that. And she used the scissors like a razor blade.
What out? Would you like me to take the shell casing off? Each one?
One is fine. Your Honor, permission to publish it there.
Your Honor, this would be placard number 10, which is, ID number exhibit 14. So each one of these probably should be in one of these smaller ones, just because that's what I had on scene that was loaded into here. It's also got the number 10 on it for a placard.
The labeling both on the center dual officers used to the correct placard.
Yeah, exactly. So if we have a ton of placards out there, we want to make sure the picture I take and the shell casing I seize and the envelope I put in, I run the label number 10 so that when I have, say, 30 shell casings, I can really say this is that one, and that one was located here. Would you like that? Yep.
One, to your recollection, were they all of this nature?
Yes, they were.
What does that indicate to you as an officer?
That the, I'm sorry.
That they were all essentially identical shell casings. That indicated
That it came from the same type of gun. You know, often too, we don't see a whole lot of people loading different types of ammunition into a gun. It's all the same type of ammunition, so I could lead me to believe that it probably came from a same type of gun, but the fact that it's all 9mm, it definitely came from a 9mm handgun.
Were shell casings the only piece of evidence that you collected from the scene that night?
It was not.
Can you tell us what else you collected from the scene?
Yep, so in the area where there's the trail of blood, in front of the driveway, right around there, 41, Mr. Levesque's residence, there was a black holster for a handgun.
I'm going to pause you there. Would you recognize that holster if you saw it today?
I would.
Detective Daney, can you just reiterate for the jury where you found this holster specifically?
It was right in the front area of the driveway or the roadway of 41 Summer Street.
Did you conduct the same method with the holster that you did for the shells in terms of preserving where it was located on the scene?
I did.
Did that include the placard placement?
Yes.
Did that include photographing it?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I approach? At the moment, it's right. Detective Daney, does this bag also contain the same label which the shell casings did in terms of where it was collected, placard, and...
Yep, so this white, I know you can't read it, but this white thing is what we call an evidence tag for the Rochester Police Department. It gives us a property number, and then I label it as the Black Hawk, which is a company holster, placard number 11.
And it was ripped open a little bit with the 19 Now that you've seen it visually, are you able to confirm that that is the holster that you found?
This is.
Your Honor, I'm getting these from Elizabeth.
She walks far away from the mic. There's not much I can do here live.
Other than the holster and the shell casings, Detective, did you collect any other evidence that night?
There was some paperwork and looked like receipts and cigarette pack that was located near the area of the holster that was collected.
So you found the holster. Did you find a gun?
Yes. So at the scene, with the blood going up towards the front steps near 41 Summer Street, in the parking lot of the driveway of 41 Summer Street was a truck that had its, it was like a plow truck, and it had its driver's side door open, and an officer was standing by, kind of making sure no one would go in that. That was told to me that it was identified as Mr. Levesque's truck, and so at that point I had to speak to another detective that was speaking to Mr. Levesque to be able to go into that truck.
Did you ultimately receive permission to go into that truck?
Yeah, so I spoke to Detective Garston, who had Mr. Levesque sign a permission to search the truck and its contents there, which granted me the right to go in and look for any additional evidence.
Upon that permission, were you able to locate a firearm inside that truck?
Yeah, so even looking on the outside with the door open, you could see a 9mm handgun, with its slide locked back to the rear and an empty magazine that was separate, and they were both sitting on the driver's seat.
So I just want to clarify, there's the gun and the magazine. Are they together at this point? When you saw it on the...
They're next to each other. The magazine is not inserted into the magazine well.
Thank you for clarifying. I think I made a mistake. Your Honor, I would like to show the witness the marked State Exhibit 5 for ID.
Can we approach on this though?
Quick little sidebar as they approach. He has been in custody since this happened shortly thereafter, April 8th, right? So about just under a year, about 11 months. Was Jason Levesque self-employed? I know he had a truck. He was plowing his own property or the area in front of his house. So I would say probably. Plowing's always a side job because you only do it during the winter. A lot of times companies that do plowing also do landscaping during the summer because that's also seasonal and it's directly inverse schedule-wise. Those two go together a lot. As a matter of fact, I passed 2 snowplows while I was going for lunch out to the post office today, driving back. 2 snowplows, and both of them had landscape company names on the side. Wouldn't be surprised if that's what he does, but I don't know for myself.
I'm showing you, I'm going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 5 for ID. This has been rendered safe by all involved personnel in this particular matter. I'm not going to hand the box over to you. I'm just going to show you. Do you recognize the firearm in this box?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize the firearm in this box?
Both from photographing it, if we could look back at photos and see the serial number, as well as the fact that the box has the property, and I see the property tag as well.
So the other end.
Has the property tag, the evidence tape, and signature as well.
And I only mentioned about the gun. The gun is not the only item in here. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
What else is in here?
There is a magazine for the gun.
Are you able to tell visually by looking at it if the magazine is empty?
Yes, I am.
Is this the condition in which you found both the gun and the magazine at the time?
It is.
Understanding that it was not so tight to the box.
Right. It was just in the condition it was sitting on the driver's seat.
Thank you, Detective. Your permission to publish it.
Just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, so this has been by agreement with a full exhibit. It was going to be a full exhibit. Just so you understand the protocol down the road, this weapon will not be sent back to you like all the other exhibits to the jury room. This is the one type of exhibit we don't do that with. Because it is a full exhibit, if at any point you wanted to inspect it more carefully or see it, we would arrange to have it brought back into the courtroom and have you brought back into the courtroom to look at it. But just for security purposes, we don't allow it.
We don't trust you with the weapon.
Thank you, Your Honor. For the record, this is now State's Exhibit 5.
Thank you.
Detective Daney, did you discover anything else in the defendant's truck relating to a firearm while you were searching it?
There was a loaded 9mm magazine separate in a black backpack.
When you say separate, can you tell us where you found that?
I believe that was in the back area, so not in the front 2 seats, in a backpack.
Did you attempt to collect any additional non-firearm evidence from this truck?
I did. So looking at the truck, it had a series of wires, and I noticed what looked like a camera from the rearview mirror that was pointed out towards the hood. I know that sometimes it's typical of people that are plowing to record, and so I looked and saw that it had a SD card slot, and so that camera system was taken in hopes that there would be some video on there.
Did there ultimately end up being any video that was retrievable?
No, after a search warrant was granted, the extraction showed there was nothing, no recordings of anything. So,
did you collect any other recordings from the defendant's property?
I did, not from the truck.
Not from the truck. Can you tell us where you did collect it from?
Yeah, so Detective Garson also said that Mr. Levesque had granted permission to obtain I think it was a Night Owl DVR system, which was the surveillance cameras for 41 Summer Street. We were told that there was a system inside the house at 41 as well as the garage. Myself and Detective Livingstone were able to retrieve the DVR system from the garage because the door was unlocked, but we were unable to, at the time on scene, grab the DVR system from the house because it was locked and no one was answering.
So that night specifically on April 4th, is that DVR video the last piece of evidence you were able to collect that night?
Myself, yes.
Did you conduct any other investigation that night?
Yep. So upon bringing evidence back to the station and logging it into our evidence lockers, I found that Mr. Levesque's daughter was in the station lobby with officers and hadn't been formally interviewed.
Without getting into the specifics of that interview, did you ultimately conduct an interview?
An interview was conducted with Detective Livingstone and I and Kira Levesque.
Did that specific interview kind of conclude your investigation for that night specifically?
Yes, it did.
Did that conclude your investigation overall?
No, it did not.
Can you tell us a little bit about the next investigative steps that you took?
The next steps, I believe, was Detective Livingstone and I responded to Boston Medical Center upon hearing that the victim, Kyle Violette, had been transported all the way to Boston for his injuries.
And again, without getting into specifics, when you arrived at Boston Medical, were you able to speak with anyone that was there?
Yep, I was able to speak to Kyle's wife, Angela LaChance, his mother, Cindy Glenn, his daughter, Kendra Violette, and his son, Kylan Violette, was there, but he's a juvenile, and so we didn't speak to him at that time.
Were you able to speak with Kyle when you were there?
I was not.
Why not?
He had a breathing tube down. He was very heavily medicated. He was conscious, per se, that he could moan maybe in pain, but he wasn't able to talk to us at all.
Would it have been functional for you to even attempt to interview him at that point?
No, there would have been no interview.
Is that the only time you went down to Boston Medical?
It is not.
Can you tell us about the next time you went down?
So when I first went down that time, though, I did photograph his injuries, and then we responded back at a later date because Kyle had a bullet that was extracted from his face.
And you mentioned the photographs, and we have already been public, admitted, still exhibits. They are 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, and 23.
Council. So I only introduced the
little sidebar. This is just an evidentiary issue about the pictures and the labeling.
Danny, Maria, my previous question. You mentioned you took some photographs. Do you recognize the photos that showed them to you?
I would.
Some of those photos at all. Do you mind just taking a look at this act? Are these photos familiar to you?
They are.
How do you recognize these photos?
These are photos that I took and uploaded to the case from Mr. Violette on the date that we went to Boston Medical Center.
Is this the first time you went to Boston Medical?
First time, yep. First time meeting Kyle himself.
Your Honor, I think this is all admitted as full exhibits. That's 24, 19, 20, 21, 22.
If I could just have a quick inspection.
Yes. So just to be clear, 19 to 20.
Yes.
So 19
I think that was the cop one that has been previously used.
Apple Treasure, thank you for 14 months of support. Says, glad to be a member of this awesome group. Thank you very much. Misconduct, I try to read all the comments but I can't respond to
So
all
no
of them.
objection. Exhibits 19 through 24 are fully exhibited. Thank you.
Detective Daney, is this the extent of all of the photos you took
No.
that day? If you could estimate how many pictures you took, would you be able to do that?
I'd say maybe 30 that day.
Did some of those photos include pictures of the victim in this case's genitalia?
Yes.
But no, we have not.
Did
Did you recognize those photos in the exhibits that I showed you?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I want to clarify. The pictures of the genitalial pictures, were those included in the pictures that I showed you?
No.
Did you want to publish these?
Yes, Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
Yes, you may.
Sandy Graham gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much, Sandy.
Detective Daney, we discussed this very briefly.
My preference is if you're going to be showing the exhibits, we don't ask questions why, unless they're about you.
Understood, Your Honor. Thank you.
I don't want to multitask.
Don't ask questions while they're looking at the pictures.
And again, these will be visible back in your deliberation room once that begins. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Detective Daney, can you tell us about your second trip down to Boston Medical?
We had been notified, I believe, by either family member or even the medical staff that there was a bullet that had been extracted from what was believed to be Kyle's face. And so we went down to retrieve that piece of evidence.
Did you ultimately collect that bullet?
We did.
Detective Daney, I'm going to hand you a pair of gloves.
Thank you.
You get some gloves, and you get some gloves.
Detective, I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 15 for identification.
If this is a fragment, it might not be very useful, but if it's a full bullet, it will give us the weight and possibly the caliber.
Point, can you tell us, based on the label on the outside of this box, what is within?
Yep, this is Rochester Police Department property label. And it says bullet from left side of Kyle Violet's face.
Is that how you would have labeled?
That's what I labeled it.
Would you mind opening that box?
Josh, thank you very much. 13 wonderful months. One of our great mods. Almost always finds good stuff for us to watch. And the attorney. At attorney level.
I'm going to pause you right there, Your Honor. I do move that this yet to be struck in and admitted as a full exhibit. This is State's 15.
That's without objection. No objection. That's a full exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you. Detective Daney, can you tell us about what you're looking at right now?
Yeah, this it's a biohazard bag, and then it is a clear container with what looks like fragmented bullet. And the label says Kyle Violet, 4/5/2024. Gives some of his information as well as the doctor.
Is this the condition in which you received or obtained the bullet?
This is how we received it, and then we packaged it.
I just want to clarify, when you say this is how you received it, are we including the plastic bag that it is?
Yeah, this is how the medical staff handed it over to us.
Thank you. Your Honor, permission to publish the jury. Danny, after you, and I apologize, did you go down to Boston Medical yourself the second time?
No, I went with Detective Livingstone as well.
Thank you. So after you and Detective Livingstone returned from Boston Medical the second time, did that conclude your investigation in this case?
It did not.
Can you tell us what the next investigative steps that you took were?
I'd have to look at my report. I believe I got a new copy of a video from Angela LaChance at that point.
Would you like to take a look at your report?
That would be great.
Let's refresh your recollection here from your report.
Detective, we discussed reports a little bit earlier, but just kind of to review, did you write this report closer in time to the investigative steps that you took than we are today?
I did.
Would it be an accurate representation of the day you took certain steps and what steps those were?
It would.
And would it help refresh your recollection?
It would.
Thank you. This is, yes, 167 to 169.
Thank you.
Light reading for the detective here. Refreshes recollection on what happened.
Did you want the previous steps too, or for?
After the
Okay.
Does that help refresh your recollection?
It does.
All right, can you tell us what those next steps were, what that next piece of your investigation was?
So we had previously applied for, like I said, we had seized the DVR systems from 41 Summer Street. We had to apply for a search warrant to actually review the contents of those. So we did that. That was granted. And on the 16th, I began the review of those video systems.
Do you recall how many videos you obtained?
I'd have to look. There's a series of different video angles from the garage, the front, as well as the...
Understood. Would seeing a copy of the report help aid in your recollection? Same page as counsel.
Sorry about that. So I have it listed as camera 1 pointing from the side of 41 Summer Street, and then camera 2 pointing from the front steps of 41 Summer Street.
Does that refresh your recollection?
It does.
Yep. So, of the two videos, did you view both of them?
I did.
Would you be able to recognize and identify them for the jury if we played them for you?
Yes.
Your Honor, I believe we will. Yes.
May we briefly approach?
Another sidebar before they play the video. Can we find out if we're allowed to see these now? Because it's not body cam. Well, I guess it's going to be the body. It's not as bad as the body cam, but. Is Jason disputing that he was the gunman? No. Jason is saying this was self-defense. Jason's version of these events is that he was doing something with a tire. I think it was like locking the hubs on his truck tire, on his plow truck tire. And while he was doing that, Kyle came over, and according to Jason, I'm not sure if we have any video that we'll share this. So there may be video that authenticates this conversation, but what we've heard so far is that Kyle came over and said, "If you bleeping plow that bleeping snow in front of my bleeping yard, I'm going to kill you and your bleeping family," or something like that. Okay. That's the general gist of how Jason's portrayed this. Now, it may be very different once we hear audio, if we get audio from the camera.
Another just quick stretch our legs, break, and use of the facilities, and hopefully we'll be back here again in about 5 to 10 minutes. All right.
We're never going to get to this before the end of the day.
Please rise.
We have less than an hour of court yet. The judge has taken another break. And everyone runs out the door to get in line for the bathrooms, apparently. Oh, yes, Carol, you missed the verdict. You've got to go back. It was during the first hour. We had the verdict come in. Scroll through. We had the, in the bottom right-hand corner where we have the cursive counter right now, we had a live view of the O'Shea trial. And it only stayed up until there was a verdict. And so you just scroll through pretty easily. Eye roll was the best. Sorry. Didn't realize my camera was on. Wasn't Jason Kyle's neighbor? They were neighbors. We've shown you the address once before just to get a feel. The jury went out and got a view as well. Let's see if I can bring you back there. Boom, boom. It was... Okay, here we go. Let me bring this over on full screen. I'm going to go to Street View. Okay. Here we go. This is the area we're talking about while everyone's out on break. These two houses, these are neighbors. On this house over here, there was this is where the Violets lived. Grandma lived in the front little part of this building that was like a converted storefront, and the others lived in the back and above. They observed the happenings that night from this window right over here. And there was a camera looking over that way as well. I think the cameras were over here. Let's see, where's the bar? The camera might have been in the top corner of one of those windows. But the driveway, as you can see, it has like the main lane, and then there's a side lane of the driveway here. I think all that is their property. And the telephone poles are pretty much right at nearly at the edge of the property for or for Kyle. Or sorry, not for Kyle, but for Jason. Sorry, I had to look for his name. So Kyle lives in the house over here. Jason lives in the house over here. They're next door neighbors. Jason has a plow company. He plows the road in front of his house right here, and he ends up pushing the snow from the right side of the screen towards the left side of the screen and stopping right around here by this sort of like the end of his property, but it does push snow towards the driveway. And apparently that previously there had been an incident where the snow had been blocked. He had done that and just blocked off their driveway with snow. So already bad feelings between that. Kyle sees what's going on, sees this and thinks this is going to continue. He goes out and addresses the issue and talks to Jason right here out in front of the house next to his truck. They say whatever it is. Kyle turns around, starts walking away, and then apparently might have turned back again and said something. Jason pulls out his 9mm semi-automatic pistol and shoots him once, and he hits Kyle in the jaw, and it goes into the right side, I believe, and lodges in the left. It breaks his mandible in two places. So he's got 2 breaks there. Kyle immediately goes down to the ground. All this time, his daughter, who we heard from earlier, is watching from the window and sees even before the shot that he's got a gun, and she starts yelling. But Kyle goes down on the ground, and then after he hits the ground, so it's like bang, 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 about that timing. We heard that audio. So he's down on the ground. 5 more shots were fired. Jason says this is self-defense because he felt threatened by the words that Kyle had said. He might have to take the stand. Usually in a self-defense case, you have to. But he might have to take the stand and explain exactly why he felt threatened and what he observed that would have made a reasonable person believe that his life was being threatened at the time. But that's a lot of shots. Jason's daughter was like in the truck or was watching as well. So Jason's daughter was watching. Kyle's daughter was watching. Kyle's significant other was also in the house. They both came out and ran to him there. Police are just down the corner. They were 2 minutes away. So it was a pretty rapid response that way. They got right there, and as you saw, there were some very, very capable officers with some great training specific to this particular incident. And I think their actions and their ability to respond so quickly saved his life. Any other questions? I want to hear that testimony. Yeah, but go back to that. Jason's toast, in my opinion, not self-defense, says Allison. It's a tough one. Now, we're only hearing one side so far. The defense does get a chance, if they want to, present evidence. I think the prosecution has presented some pretty strong evidence that the jury could rely on. I ask that because the telephone pole is on city property, not on Jason's property. Auntie, where do you ask? Was Jason's truck in front of that telephone pole? It's not an issue of where the truck was. And this is the thing. It's not an issue of did Jason actually push the snow onto the driveway. It doesn't matter if he did or he didn't. The question is entirely based on, was Jason being threatened at the time? Was he reasonably fearful of his life when he fired? And was the first time? And was there a need to continue firing when he fired the additional 5 shots? So we can get all the backstory we want and look at the property lines and where the snow was and where the truck was. It's irrelevant to the case, really. It's irrelevant. Who was doing the plowing? Jason Levesque was doing the plowing. Kyle Violet was the one who got shot. If I mix that up, I apologize. Chris Wallace, welcome. Welcome to the gallery. No. You gifted a membership. Yay! Chris, thank you. You hit another Chris. You hit Chrissy Lowe with your gifted membership. That is awesome. How's the bathroom model going? Not good. Okay. Let me share something with you really quickly. I am the world's worst home remodeler, and I live in a house that was built over 100 years ago that needs so many everything needs to be redone. Like there is not a single thing in any room. The fireplaces are all coal burning fireplaces. All the chimneys need to be redone. The fireplaces have to be torn out. The roof has to be repaired. The gutters have to be replaced and cleaned out. You name it. It needs to be fixed on my property. I'm the worst at doing that. And so this is the second of 2 bathrooms that I'm remodeling in this house. The first one I've mostly finished, except for installing the bidet. I never got around to that. Mostly because they're expensive. and the second one, we've got podcast tonight. Tomorrow night, I've got another live stream for the parenting class. I've got 7 more weeks of that to live stream. I just signed up to live stream the city council thing, which I'll need to figure out. I've got a gig a week from this weekend that's pretty huge that requires translation and multiple streams and everything else. Yeah. It's I just don't have time to get to it. Maybe this weekend on Saturday I can at least get the shower base installed and then start building the walls. Okay. We're back. Let's see defendants coming in. This does make you feel like you're in an airport, like concourse or something, both from the echoes and from all the seats by the wall. Recommend the best way for a person to record thoughts, not video. I prefer audio myself because it's really cheap and you can use an app on a phone. There's some great voice recorder apps for the iPhone that are cheap or free. And the iPhone actually has a pretty good recorder for that. What app for Android? I'm sorry, I do not have an Android. I never have. If somebody hands me their Android, I would not know how to call 911 on it, let alone open up the screen. I'm an Apple guy. The recorder I use on Apple. My phone just told me that there's a sale on Subway sandwiches. Now I'm hungry. Okay, the app I use on the Apple to record is called Voice Record. So you can't see it very well. Let me let it focus on it.
You can be seated, folks in the gallery. I would like to be counsel before we start. You can take it off.
That's what it looks like. It is phenomenal. It's got like a red to black gradient background with the headphones over a microphone. It does so well. Calibrates and everything. It's for recording audio, and I used it all the way back in college. I just set my phone on the desk to record lectures, and it was phenomenal. It probably has an Android version as well.
I just want to make my position clear that the media has access to these proceedings, and they have the same access that a member of the public would have, and so to the extent they are able to broadcast what's happening in the courtroom, that is their right. When I expressed earlier my preference that they not broadcast inflammatory or very inflammatory images, I was simply expressing a preference. That's not in any way meant to be an order of this court. I just want to make that clear on the record. It's more of a human preference. I think it's better that those sorts of violent, graphic images not be broadcast to the world, but this is a public proceeding, and the public has a right to access. And so I just want to make that clear. Understood. All right. Thank you very much. And are we ready to begin now?
Like what the judge just said. Judge just said the media has the same access in the courtroom as any member of the public, and I'm going to let them broadcast whatever they can see. He personally, would prefer that we don't show the body cam, but he's not making that an order. He just thinks
I think I missed your question, but yes, you're ready.
Better media. So we can show what we want. Stream free or die, the New Hampshire motto. Courtroom 1 to jury 1. Send in the jurors.
Please rise.
Over.
Jury entering.
Sidetrack, I don't know. Oh, he is paralyzed? I wasn't sure if he was paralyzed. I know he's still recovering, that the recovery process is ongoing. Jasmine's our sort of inside information here. She's familiar with Kyle. Lives not far from him.
Please be seated. Counsel, you may continue your examination. Are we at the point of needing to rearrange where we are in the room?
Yes, let's start with that since the TV is already set, Your Honor.
Well, was that not supposed to drag on?
It's...
For the 7th time, everyone in court does the hokey pokey as we turn ourselves around so we can all see the screen.
Detective, if you'll bear with me for a moment.
I think you're going to be asked.
While I attempt to set up, but if yes.
Yes, sir.
The judge is correct. If you wouldn't mind stepping down off the witness stand.
We just had a long break to prep for this, and now we're not ready.
So, Detective Janey, I just want to clarify. In total, How many videos did you view of this incident?
There was the original video, Officer Birmingham showed me the recording. There was the 43 surveillance camera that had audio. And then there was the DVR systems. I believe there was one on the front porch that faces towards Summer Street, at 41 Summer. There was the side angle of the house, and then there was one on the garage. So there should have been 5.
Sounds like 5 videos.
Angles, with 2 of them being Officer Birmingham's recording of the same video.
Thank you for clarifying that, Detective.
You guys hear me real?
Detective, I'm pulling up one of the videos and I will turn on the TV in a moment so that we're all able to view which one we are looking at here. Does this image itself, prior to the video playing, look familiar to you?
Yes, this looks like one of the camera angles from 41 Summer Street.
Are you able to identify anything in this still of the video that indicates that to you?
Just having reviewed it and seeing kind of the layout, and this looks like the work truck as well.
I just want to be clear for the record, this is State's Exhibit 2.
This is a full exhibit, ladies and gentlemen.
Detective Daney, in your review of the videos that you obtained in this case, did you in any way make notes for your own personal use of what was going on in the videos?
I did.
Can you tell us how you went about making those notes?
Yeah, it's the way that it was playing was on a DLC player, which allows you to do frame by frame. So I can click it and it'll slowly move. Sometimes I'll click it and you won't even have a second pass where you're seeing the frames move. Just because sometimes in videos we watch something happen very quick and I want to break it down to what actually happened. So from there, I would take the date, the time of the recording, and you'll see that up in the top there's also it goes into the seconds as well. And so from there I would do the date, the times down to the second, and then narrate what I saw in this case. That's how I documented the video camera angles.
I know the rest of us have been through this before. You have not. As we go through this, I'm going to pause occasionally and we're going to discuss a little bit about what you're looking at both now and when you viewed the videos initially. Are you able to tell us, we've seen quite a few videos and angles of driveways in this particular case. Whose driveway are we looking at right now?
This is 41 Summer Street.
Is that?
This is facing Levesque.
Okay.
This driveway
defendant's
is where, when I arrived on scene initially for the crime scene, the truck was parked facing in.
And when you say the truck, is that the plow truck that we're looking at right here?
Correct,
okay.
Yes.
Can you just tell us a little bit about what you see?
At this point, I see the driver's door open, and I see the driver exiting the vehicle and actually walking past the driver's door.
Is this consistent with the way you viewed this video during the course of your investigation?
It is.
It's a little late to lay foundations. The jury's watching it. All right.
What are you able to tell us about what we're looking at now?
This should be Mr. Kyle Violet approaching Mr. Jason back.
At that point, can you tell which direction Mr. Violet is walking?
At that point, pause, it appeared he's walking back towards his residence and turns to face Mr. Levesque.
Can you tell us again?
I made the same observation. He's walking back towards 43 Summer Street, but facing the building back.
I just want to clarify, you arrived at the scene the night that this happened, correct?
I did.
Are you able to tell what is being pointed to based on your knowledge of both the scene and in having reviewed all the videos in this case?
What Kyle Violet's pointing to? He's pointing towards his driveway area where snow was plowed.
Can you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at and what we just saw?
I saw Mr. Violet pointing back and forth towards what's believed to be the snow pile and then walking out of frame. And then I see Mr. Levesque grab and start to point towards the direction of where Mr. Violet was and start to take a step towards his direction.
When you say grab and point, are you able to tell if you believe he's pointing at Mr. Violet?
Based on just the video alone, no. Based on interviews and the other information as well as the other video and the audio, a firearm.
And I just want to clarify, are you able to tell what direction Mr. Violet was walking just prior to the defendant pulling the firearm?
Back towards his residence.
And I do just want to clarify, was there audio on this video when you viewed it?
There was no audio on the DVR systems obtained. The only audio was from 43 Summer Street video channels.
Thank you for clarifying. Are you able to tell in this video which direction Mr. Levesque just stepped?
I'd have to watch that one more to see again.
We're doing it frame by frame here.
With my notes because I didn't want to miss any sort of steps there. So it appears to me that Mr. Violet walks forward and then starts to go backwards before what looks like a shot is fired.
Okay, and I just want to clarify, by backwards, is that in the direction of his own home?
Yep, so forwards towards Mr. Levesque, backwards after towards his own home, and then the shot is fired.
Okay, so it doesn't appear that he's walking towards Mr. Levesque.
Not at that time.
And that flash that we just saw, are you able to tell us what you believe that was?
I'd say it's consistent with a gunshot.
We just saw the defendant move a little bit in that last frame, and I understand I'm stopping and starting this a lot, so if you need me to go back, please let me know, and I'm happy to replay some of that. Can you tell us, during the review that you did of this video where you went frame by frame, were you able to tell, it sounds like you had better pausing technology than we do, approximately how many steps the defendant took towards Mr. Violet after that first shot, or between that first shot and the remaining shots?
That's what I have it narrated in my report. I believe it was 5 steps towards the direction of Mr. Violet after the first shot was fired.
Were you able to tell in your frame-by-frame review about how long of a pause there was between that first shot and the next shots?
If you looked at my report with the time frame to be able to read that, yes.
So it sounds like, and I don't want to try and put words in your mouth, but would taking a look at your report
yes,
help
I'd be able to
calculate that?
Time frame of showing the first shot versus the time I narrate looking at the next shot.
Thank you. This is just.
We can have 1 second.
Detective Daney, I'm showing you one of the pages of the report that I just made. Let's look at that.
Is this something answer the question.
Just to answer the question.
How long?
Approximately how long?
So for this, I would just need to look at the second camera as well. Is that something that's okay? Because he steps out of frame, I don't see the next shots going. I can tell you when he walks towards and steps out of frame and then walks back, just on this camera angle alone. But the second camera picked up him walking forward more, and then what I deem as shots.
We'll go back to that with the next camera then.
So, a matter of 6 seconds between walking forward and then being seen back on camera.
Thank you for that one moment. Looks like we're timed out. Just a moment, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you. So you mentioned a couple of the other videos. Does one of the other videos you obtained from the Levesque house kind of give an angle of what's happening out of frame in this particular video?
It does. It gives more of a context of what Kyle is doing and what happened when Mr. Levesque steps out of the camera angle facing towards Kyle. I'll tell you that having both angles was huge because we can see what happened by the car, and then we can see what also happened past the hedges and in the front of the house. Both are able to tell the story.
So we're going to go to that next camera angle in a moment.
This is so
You mentioned this
noisy.
a little bit earlier, but it seems very fast watching the video just as a video itself. Going frame by frame, did that allow you to get a better sense of what was happening and how long it took?
Yes, because I quite literally did bullet points of any time someone's body type of turn. So an example would be Kyle takes steps towards Mr. Levesque. Mr. Levesque is looking at him. Kyle turns around this way. So each camera angle had several different bullet points in a matter of a second, a couple seconds.
If I had these raw files, I could sync them all up and show them all to you side by side.
Yes.
In real time. And slow motion. So if anybody has access to the raw files from court, let me know.
Having both been at the scene and having reviewed all of the videos in this case, are you able to estimate approximately how far Mr. Violet was from Mr. Levesque?
From the point where he gets face to face with him to the point where the shot was fired, I'd say that's maybe about 10 to 15 feet. That's just looking at like the distance and looking at how much the truck takes up in the video and knowing the size of an average truck.
Detective Lee, we're going to take a look at that next video you had mentioned. Detective, I'm going to play this video through, and we're going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about what we just saw.
Okay.
But to clarify, yes, it'll. What is the angle of this camera?
This is the front steps of 41 Summer Street. And it's based in an angle that would be pointed towards like the driveway direction, and 43 Summer Street, Mr. Levesque residence is behind this.
So just to clarify, this is recording essentially the street and sidewalk in front of him to the angle of the Levesque porch. In that direction, is that Kyle? You just
That's
saw?
Kyle. He's coming from the direction of his residence.
Pause that and go back to a couple of points. I'm going to try and skip to where.
It's tough to see anything in these videos. I'm just hoping that some of them have audio.
So I believe you mentioned this earlier. Is that Mr. Violet?
It is.
And are you able to kind of geographically orient us with where that big tree was that we saw in the last video, just in relation to this porch?
It would be, you were to direction.
Please.
So if the porch continued a little bit, there would be a window and there would be hedges in the driveway right around here.
Thank you for clarifying that. Detective Danny, based on A, your prior review of this, B, kind of the positioning of some of these shadows over here, are you able to determine at what point Mr. Violet begins walking back to his house, viewing this video in conjunction with the other videos?
Between looking at both and going frame by frame and seeing and start to come into the frame.
So is this, at this point it looks like Mr. Violet has walked farther away from the defendant than we had maybe seen on the first video?
Yes, just because he's out of frame in the first video. It looks like he was walking away and has turned around at this point and is facing Mr. Levesque's direction.
I understand it's a little bit in the top of the video. Can you tell us what we just witnessed kind of up that top corner based on your investigation and your viewing of these videos?
Looking at the video alone, it's Kyle Violet falling to the ground. Based on the other videos, the audio of the gun going
So just to clarify, the defendant would have been out of frame, but he's visible on the other video.
Yes. And visible in the 40 Summer Street.
Does Mr. Violet get up at any point?
No,
And by get up, I just want to clarify, does he stand up?
he does not stand up.
Does he appear to go towards the defendant?
No.
Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening now as we're viewing?
Yeah, so when I go frame by frame, I'm saying Violet falls to the ground this time. This time it looks like he turned around on all fours. I don't see anything in his hands. But this time he is crawling. This time I see a gust of smoke, or what looks like smoke that wasn't there before. And based on looking at the other videos, it was, I determined that to be the next initial shot.
Okay, so that would be the next shots after the defendant has stepped forward?
Yes.
Based on your knowledge of this case, your scene investigation, is this approximately where Mr. Violet was found by officers in EMT shortly thereafter?
It was. The photos that were originally taken of the pathway of blood and the concentration of blood there was quite literally just flipped around from this way. If that makes sense.
So, we're going to view one more video. And I just want to clarify, I believe you mentioned, can you tell us about the video you collected the night of the actual shooting?
So the night of the actual shooting would have been from the garage. The DVR system had a separate DVR system on the surveillance of 41 Summer Street.
And you viewed this video as well, correct? Yes. Okay.
Last video. Okay, you can stand there. It's not like we have the cheap seats and can barely see anyway. Go ahead and block our view.
Is this the way you recall viewing that video at the time?
Yes.
Can you tell us just what we're looking at?
Yep, you're looking at the driveway of 41 Summer Street. If you can see here, this is the hedge that we were talking about before, so there would have been a camera almost right over this way, or it might have even been this way pointing down. And then this is Summer Street. After this house over here is Mr. Violet's house. This is where the truck was parked when I arrived on scene to process the scene.
And I do just want to clarify, when you say this is where the truck was parked, it's a little bit difficult to tell in this particular angle, but I do think it may have been clear in the last one. Is there more driveway in this corner?
Yeah, he was able to pull the truck all the way.
So that's looking down the driveway of Mr.
So is this camera angle from all the way into the garage?
Levesque's property.
It's attached right to the garage.
Detective, I'm going to skip ahead because this is a fairly lengthy video to...
Does it look like it's snowing to you guys? Occasional little flakes
So you
of
see
snow,
that
or was that light?
big kind of white light in the foreground, the background, I suppose. Are you able to tell us what that is?
I'm assuming that that would be glare from both the snow and the lights from the snowplow, yellow amber.
Detective, I understand it's a little farther away than the other videos, but are you able to tell what's going on at the truck's door at this point?
Other than Mr. Violet approaching Mr. Levesque and those two almost face to face, that's what I'm able to determine.
Is this consistent with the other videos that you viewed?
It is.
Can't see nothing.
Detective, I'm going to back that up a little bit like I just did for the previous video. We're going to go a little bit more in depth with that. So I just want to clarify at this point, is this still Kyle Violet walking?
It is.
This is that initial...
His initial approach to the front.
At that point, are you able to view what direction Mr. Violet is walking?
He's walking back towards the direction of his residence.
Does he still appear to be walking back towards his own residence?
Yeah, it seems to be communicating with Mr. Levesque, pointing, but also walking back.
It was very brief. You're able to tell us what you just witnessed between the defendant and Mr. Violet.
Yeah, it looks like Mr. Violet's walking back towards Mr. Levesque. Mr. Levesque raises his hands and points out. Mr. Violet turns around at that point.
At that point, is that another angle, I suppose? Are you able to tell what the defendant's doing from that angle?
It looks like he, after the initial shot, drops his hands and then comes back out, extends, goes to one hand, and approaches the area, and then you look at the other camera angle, he's approaching Kyle Violet.
At any point in any of these videos, do you see the defendant try and help Mr. Violet?
I do not.
Do you see him try and stop the bleeding?
No.
Do you see him try and provide first aid?
I do not.
Detective Danny, I believe we are done with the videos for this portion of your testimony. I do have a couple of additional questions for you.
We're almost done for the day because the court ends at 4, which is just 10 minutes away.
That's the end of the video.
This is no doubt my fault. You told me to do nothing.
I just got a bingo, I think. I just got a bingo.
It's durable. Detective Danny, I apologize for a little bit of the inconsistency or out of order questions I'm going to ask you, though, but I do want to go back very briefly to what we were talking about earlier and the scene photos that you took regarding the shell casings and their locations with the placards.
Yep.
Would you recall those pictures if I
would.
showed them to you today?
I don't have any problem with that. Which one are these?
It's, they have not been marked for conclusion yet. Thank you. Yes, they do.
Are they all one exhibit or all?
They can be one exhibit or multiple exhibits or departments. There are 3 pictures, but they're all very similar. Technically, there are 3 photos attached. We don't mind reviewing them and letting you know if you recognize those.
Yep, I recognize these. These are photos I took on scene of the initial crime scene.
Can you tell us what we're looking at in those photos?
This is what I was. You're going to show. Right? This is the overview initial photographs after placards have been placed, so that you can actually see. Oh, this is the location of those placards, and then we would follow up by close-ups of, hey, this is placard 6. What is placard 6 that we're looking at? And so these are placards that are located in the roadway of Summer Street around the area of where that shooting that we just saw occurred. And these placards are the locations of all evidence located, mainly the 6 shell casings.
Your Honor, I asked if you had to distribute it to see if there's a full exhibit at 6:25.
Without objection. Without objection, there are full exhibits. Thank you.
Videos, reflection of the various scene evidence, your drives down to Boston Memorial. Were there any other investigative steps that you took for this particular case?
Detective Livingstone and I had interviewed, I think it's Haley Freeman, who was reported to be inside. That was Kira's friend from UNH. I attended the forensic interview of Kyle Violet for his statement. I examined later the actual shell casings and photographed them with a close-up lens to show that the primer had been struck. So, once again, not a firearms expert, but on the shell casings, we're looking for the firing pin imprint on the back of that shell casing, which would indicate that the firing pin hit and struck the primer, causing that explosion, which would cause the projectile to leave and the shell casing to be extracted. So I was looking for those and photographed those as well.
Do you recall if that was present in the shell casings?
It was.
In all of them?
All 6.
Thank you. One moment, Your Honor. Detective, I have no further questions for you at this point. I imagine Mr. Attorney Sistu.
Thank you.
But we're going to approach. We're going to figure out if he has more than 7 minutes of questions. If he does, we're probably going to start tomorrow. Looking at the time. Man, that silence is beautiful. Got to be approaching the end of the state's case here. Possibly having Kyle testify would be the closer. Maybe some medical stuff.
I think this is a good point prior to the next step is cross-examination of this witness. We only have a short period of time left in the day, so we're going to suspend for the rest of the day and a little bit early. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 10 o'clock for continuation of testimony. I will remind you that all my previous instructions remain in place. Those include don't talk with anyone about this case amongst yourselves or with anyone outside of this courtroom. You're not to do any independent research about the facts of this case, and you're not to read or watch any of the media accounts related to this case. Now, with those instructions, I'll bid you good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10. Thank you. All rise for jury.
And jury departure.
The guy announces that like nobody in the court knows that they're leaving right now.
Thank you. You're excused. Is there any further we need to discuss with counsel before we retire for the evening?
No, sir.
Okay, we're okay. We'll see you at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right, we get to turn off the sound, which was sort of, it's terrible. It sounds like we're in a wind tunnel, and we're there. Right now, I am just as we speak, just putting the finishing touches on the thumbnail for the podcast tonight, which is now up. I will also build a portal. If you've never been to the podcast, if you've never been on the podcast on a Thursday night, today's a great day to make it a first, right? It's a wonderful time to make an appearance for your first time, because Thomas is feeling better, and we're back to full strength and health here, and you never know how long that's going to last. So please come around and check it out. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we invite you to be here. It's right here on this channel. It's basically, you click the subscribe button, you ring the bell, you get notified by YouTube when we go live again. It will be 8 p.m. tonight, and we're going to be back up talking about some fun stuff and some fun stuff and some interest. Well, it's going to be funny. It's going to be good. Sure, he says, I'm not saying I'm not on Jason's side now. 5 to 6 shots is definitely excessive. Let me say this. If Jason had fired 1 round, okay, it's problematic that the person that he shot did not have a weapon. That's problematic. But it would be in the face. If he had stopped right then, he would have had a much easier time convincing a jury that there was reasonable doubt as to whether or not he reasonably feared for his life. That's a much more defensible position than shooting somebody once in the face and then 5 times on the ground. They have an uphill battle. He's going to have to testify because he has to say this was self-defense, and he's the only one we've heard from so far that wants to talk about what happened there. Maybe Kyle will tell us as well. But either way, it's not looking good for him. So it's hard to justify those other 5 shots. If he had said, if it was just 1 shot, he could have come up with all sorts of things. He threatened me, and he was reaching in his pocket. You know, police use that one all the time. He was reaching for something. I thought it's now or never. If I don't do something now, I'm a dead man, and then he's going to kill my family. That sort of thing is, believe it or not, even though it sounds absurd, especially somebody who might know Kyle and say, "Oh, he's not like that." Yeah, but that something is more believable to a jury than I had to shoot him once and then shoot him 5 more times just to make sure. That's a hard sell. 1 shot can be self-defense. 5 more shots sounds like an execution. I don't have any information about a GoFundMe out there. I don't know authenticity-wise. I really hesitate to get involved in that because I can't authenticate. So if you choose to donate, please do your homework. Sadly, there are some GoFundMes that are formed for people that have no connection with the person who's mentioned. So just make sure you do your homework there, and anyway, maybe you'll just get the good karma for donating if that's the case. But it might be good as well. It might go to them. All right. Anything else we need to talk about tonight? I realize it's early. I just remembered I need to get. Does anyone have a good suggestion for a tech wipe? But not actually the tech wipe that's like dry sheets of cloth. I want like a Clorox wipes that I can use just to clean keyboards and surfaces and things like that. I'm tired of dusting. I need to like, I think I've got some potato chip on this that needs to come off. So canned air for huffing. No. Northwest. I have a battery powered, so I don't use, if I can get it to put on again. Hang on. I broke it. Just 1 second. Nope, not there. Man. There it is. Now it's snapped on. I've got a battery powered blower. Like that. It works pretty well. So I don't do the compressed air, but I need a wiper one. Pampers Method brand. What do they call it? Just Method brand? I'm on Amazon, so. Method cleaner wipes. All-purpose cleaning wipes, pink grapefruit, multi-serve. Pink grapefruit? They smell like pink grapefruit? Or is it leaving like pink grapefruit residue on my tech? Josh comes in with a strong vote. Using the buffer sound, says, whoosh cleaner is the best. Mitt method clean. Greeners, I'm not sure how many people understand that reference. It goes all the way back to Judge Stephanie Boyd describing her personal preference of toilet paper usage, which she describes as the Mitt method. Don't eat over keyboard. It's a little late now, Purple. It's a little late now. You tell me now. Just microfiber cloth. Okay, send me a link if you've got one. Text me a link, and I need to buy some. But here's the thing: everyone's sending me these pickle flavored things to eat, and most of them are like greasy. And if I try them here, then I touch something in it. I don't like my studio getting dirty that way. So let me know. And dust for electronics, antiseptic screen and surface cleaning wipes for tablet, e-reader, motor, and dust. Alcohol and ammonia free. But then does it work? Pre-moistened. Look at that. Pre-moistened. Is there a Cheetos remover wipe? That's your tongue. You just lick your fingers. That works. Sloth life. What is happening here? I missed it. Somebody said to update Sloth life. Okay. Q-tips and slightly damp. I didn't see what Sloth life said. All right. Either way, if it's important, she's going to say it again. Oops. I'll miss it then, too. After pickles are gone, save the juice and put mozzarella sticks in the juice. Close the lid, fridge overnight. Is this a cleaning solution? Pickled cheese? Is that what you're going for? Someone buy him a tiny desk vacuum. No, it's the Cheeto dust that I need to get up, and the vacuum's not enough for that. I can tell you what does not work. 24 ounces of unsweetened tea. TK sewing machine repair. Thank you very much for that. I will now cross that off my list of things to try. Josh has sent me a link in chat. Mod chat. That's great. All right. What is the burner phone number, says Lucy JBJ. It's coming on the screen right now. Boom. There it is. That's the burner phone. It's been blowing up this afternoon, too. I have to check a whole bunch of messages. Oh, there's another one. Okay, so send me a link. Oh, wow. Images, links, all sorts of things coming in. All right. We are done. We are done with court today. New Hampshire lets us out early, which is great. I love it. I have arriving in the mail sometime this afternoon 2 new tires for my mountain bike. Yes, I live on the flatlands of eastern North Carolina, but I own a mountain bike with suspension, I might add, because I bought it when I lived out west. It has not been ridden since I moved here. I think I remember how to ride it, but I need to put 2 new tires on first. And maybe I should put on my helmet, my motorcycle helmet. I actually know how to ride a bike backwards. I mean, by backwards, I mean you sit on the handlebars and pedal with your feet on the pedal, so you're looking at the seat and see where you've been. I can do that. I have that ability. I'm going to not do it tonight, but wish me luck. I'm going to cross my fingers. I've decided I need to do something more fun for exercise than just standing at my desk, because I don't do that very much. And that's not enough exercise. So, videotape your bike ride. What I wanted to do was buy a gyro-stabilized gimbal that clamps to my bike handlebars, and then I could take you on a tour somewhere. I could just be like, live stream me running the stop signs and everything else that I normally do. So, make sure to cast it on time for the podcast. Yes, we'll do that. I prefer a mountain bike or a Dutch bike, regardless of terrain. I've got my eye on an e-bike, but man, they're spendy. Tonight, when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make sure their day's a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live again tonight at 8 p.m. on this channel. We'll see you at the podcast. You guys have a great night. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. You're my new best friend.
Because he's the guy.